Chapter 1854. What's going on? Jax frowned. I don't know. Anyway, Los Angeles has become a forbidden place for mercenaries and killers. The local gangs warned us to either leave as soon as possible or stay in Los Angeles. Could it be that the local gangs are deliberately mystifying things? No, I've investigated. It's true, the subordinate said seriously. More than 200 people are missing. Is there no more information? According to the local gang's speculation, there might be a new power in Los Angeles. This power is very territorial and doesn't like outsiders doing missions in Los Angeles. Looks like we have to be careful, Jax said seriously. After all, we're outsiders. Jax had encountered such an organization or force before. Under normal circumstances, Jax would leave with his men. After all, a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. Moreover, it was not suitable to have a conflict with a local power without knowing the other party's background. Rather, they would rather have a conflict with the local gangs. They did not want to have a conflict with an armed group. Gangs and armed groups were two completely different concepts. Gangs, including the mafia, no matter what form they existed in, had a relatively loose internal structure. There were very few people who could be armed. Most of them had light weapons or no weapons at all. Even some of the armed forces were amateurs. Just like the gangsters in the movies where they could equip any kind of weapon, it was impossible to appear in reality. At least for a stable regime, it was impossible to allow such gangs to exist. However, some organizations and forces were different. They had much more powerful armed forces. Moreover, they might have connections with the government. Some organizations or forces were even formed by the government. They existed for a certain purpose. Therefore, if you offended them, the revenge you would receive would be extremely strong. No one wanted to have a conflict with such organizations. Even a professional team like Jax would not. Is there any local government department? Anti-terrorism security department, the subordinate said. Anti-terrorism security department. Jax frowned. Let's keep a low profile and try not to do anything ourselves. What about this mission? Try to find local people. We won't do anything. Got it. How was the bank robbery today? Fele asked. It's quite boring. Qin Zhao shrugged. Those people aren't real professionals. They look more like pawns arranged by someone. In the beginning, Qin Zhao saw how fast they were. In just a minute, they had taken control of the situation in the bank. He thought they were professionals. In the end, they realized that they were only well-trained at best. He should be a retired soldier, but he was far from being an elite. Be it in terms of awareness or strength, they were quite average. Someone must be controlling them from behind the scenes. Even the spies in the bank were arranged by the people behind the scenes. They were just following the plan. Once Qin Zhao, who was not part of the plan, appeared, they didn't know what to do, especially when Qin Zhao answered the call. They couldn't make up their minds to shoot. This meant that they were not the kind of people who would kill indiscriminately. He was probably short on cash and wanted to earn some extra income. Then he was hired to participate in this robbery. During the whole robbery, they did not kill anyone. This meant that they still had their own bottom line. Of course, this couldn't be a reason for them to get off scot-free. Amelia should know the truth, since the other party was here for the documents, and Amelia's reaction showed that he cared about the documents. This meant that Amelia knew the other party's identity. After dinner, Qin Zhao picked up his phone and called Amelia. Amelia, who's the person behind the bank robberies today? A robber who made his fortune by killing and robbing, Amelia said calmly. Those documents are a rich man's inheritance. Before he died, he gave his real estate to the bank for safekeeping. That person has his eyes on the inheritance. If I steal these documents, I can get the inheritance? Qin Zhao asked, confused. Some of the legal issues involved are very complicated. To put it simply, he only needs to destroy these documents, and then he can deny the bank the right to safekeep. Then he can establish a relationship with one of the rich man's blood descendants and have the right to take over the inheritance. That rich man should have a law firm, right? There should be legal notarization for this kind of safekeeping, right? Yes, but these documents are key. Right now, the bank is in a lawsuit with the rich man's family. If these documents are lost, the bank will be in a passive position. That person's methods are extremely despicable. Kidnapping, threatening, killing, framing. As long as he can get the inheritance, he'll do anything, Amelia said. Amira said, by the way, you'd better be careful. After all, you've unwittingly gotten involved in this matter. Although you're not afraid, you still have your family. You'd better be wary of them. Chun Zhao thought about it. Find 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai? But Fei Lai definitely wouldn't accept it. Then, he'd protect her secretly. After hanging up with Amira, Chun Zhao called Klaus. Klaus, do you know any powerful bodyguards? President, I know quite a few people, but they're definitely not good enough for you, Klaus said with a bitter smile. I want to prepare 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai to protect her secretly, Chun Zhao said. Oh, I see. I do have their numbers. How about I give you their numbers? Sure, give me their numbers. Klaus sent the numbers to Chun Zhao. After getting the numbers, Chun Zhao contacted the person. After saying Klaus's name, the person agreed to meet easily. The person wasn't in L.A. right now, but they'd rush over immediately. They should be able to reach L.A. tomorrow. Actually, even without bodyguards, Fei Lai might not be in danger. First of all, she definitely wouldn't be in danger at home. Second, Walter would follow Fei Lai every day. Moreover, Fei Lai's skills were quite good. Her body was already much stronger than normal people. She would also occasionally practice boxing with Chun Zhao. Of course, Chun Zhao wanted to be careful. There was nothing wrong with being careful. Chun Zhao thought about it and called Basin over. Basin was also a strong bodyguard. Besides Samuel, he was the smallest one in the bodyguard team. Even if he followed Fei Lai every day, he wouldn't attract attention. Chapter 1855. The next day, Chun Zhao arrived at the appointed restaurant. There were quite a lot of people in the restaurant, but there was only one table. The customers were all in suits and ties. There were both men and women. Hello, Chun Zhao asked first. Did Klaus introduce you? You're Mr. Chen, right? The leading man was in his 40s. We're from Blade Security Company. I'm Glavers, the person in charge of the company. They're all members of our team. How much do you charge? Chun Zhao asked. Mr. Chen, Glavers asked, do you want long-term employment or short-term service? Chun Zhao thought for a moment and asked, what's the long-term fee? What's the short-term fee? The short-term fee is based on the number of days. 10,000 per person per day. The shortest is 7 days. Long-term, at least half a year, 120,000 per month. Then long-term. It seems more cost-effective, Chun Zhao said. I want 2 female bodyguards. It's best if my wife doesn't know. You just have to protect her secretly and don't disturb her work. So what does your wife do? Coastal Rescue Team. Don't disturb her when she's working, but if someone suspicious approaches her, you have to take action. Glavers nodded. No problem. Let's sign for half a year first. If I'm satisfied with your service, I'll sign a longer contract, Chun Zhao said. Here's a check for 5 million. Glavers was also quite satisfied with Chun Zhao's client. He didn't haggle at all and accepted the price he offered very straightforwardly. A regular security guard's monthly salary wasn't even 10,000. His offer was sky high, but Chun Zhao didn't even blink. Mr. Chin, do you need security services? Me? Forget it. I don't need it. Chun Zhao smiled and shook his head. Fine. By the way, are you close to Klaus? When Klaus was in the army, I was his instructor, Graves replied. Chun Zhao felt that anyone who could be an instructor in the army was really strong. For example, Gaia's combat skills were top-notch. Glavers thought that Klaus was Chun Zhao's bodyguard. He knew Klaus's skills, so he didn't force him to introduce bodyguards. She's Avia and she's Zoya. They're not any weaker than any of the men in our company. Galavers pointed at the two women in suits. Chun Zhao reached out. Avia, Zoya, hello. Hello, boss. The two girls shook hands with Chun Zhao. From today onwards, you two will listen to Mr. Chen's instructions. Yes, Mr. Graves. Mr. Chin, if there's nothing else, we'll be leaving first. Talk to Avia and Zoya. Gravis led the others away. Chun Zhao gestured for them to sit down. This is my wife's message. Take a look. You better not let her know of your existence. Just protect her in secret. Unless it's necessary, don't show yourself. Boss, if your wife works for the coastal rescue team, she shouldn't be in any danger during the day. At least, she won't be attacked directly. The main problem is when she's on her way to and from work, Avia said. Can you install a tracker on your wife? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. If you think it's necessary, then do it. How you do it will depend on your abilities. I won't do it myself. Of course. It's our job. Frank was depressed because he'd been in charge of feeding Raymond for the past 2 days. After 2 days of contact, Frank wasn't afraid of Raymond anymore. But Raymond was really vengeful. He would tease him every time he came. For example, yesterday, Frank drove a truck to deliver 2 live cows. He led the cows to the top of the mountain. Before he could rest, a 6-meter-long crocodile appeared. Frank was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He fired a few shots but didn't kill the crocodile. Instead, it became even more ferocious. Just as Frank was about to turn and run, Raymond appeared and bit the scary crocodile to death. After that, Frank realized that Raymond had driven the crocodile here. Frank was furious, but he couldn't do anything. Who asked him to offend Raymond? There are crocodiles. Why do they have to eat beef? Frank complained as he led the 2 cows up the mountain. Moo! Just then, the 2 cows that were being led suddenly became restless. Frank let go of the reins and Raymond appeared. He bit one of the cows with his bloody mouth. The cow, weighing more than 1,000 kilograms, was bitten by Raymond. No matter how many times Frank saw it, he was still shocked. Raymond's way of eating was too violent. The other cow wanted to run, but Raymond swept his tail and knocked it out. Raymond, today's food is here, Frank called. I'm leaving. Frank wasn't interested in watching Raymond eat. Just then, a few voices came from the mountain path. Before Frank could make a sound, Raymond picked him up and slipped into the bushes like a wisp of smoke. The man and Snake hid in the bushes and watched the people coming from the mountain path. They were just kids. They had probably just entered high school. Frank felt Raymond's tail loosen. Then Raymond whipped Frank's, but Frank stumbled and fell out of the bushes. Ah! The kids were startled when they saw Frank suddenly come out of the bushes. What are you doing here? This is private property. Frank yelled and touched his buttocks. You think it's private property? Look at how sneaky you are. You don't look like a good person. I'll call the police. A girl pointed at Frank. She wasn't afraid of the burly Frank at all. Frank's face turned red. What do you mean I don't look like a good person? I'm doing this for your own good. These children were obviously here to sightsee. They didn't know where they heard that there was a lake on the mountain, so they came here. Call the police? Okay, call the police. Frank suddenly thought that if the police came and found out what Raymond said, it would be troublesome. Don't mind him. Look, there really is a lake. The lake here is so beautiful. The group of kids rushed towards the lake, but after a few steps, they saw the corpse of a crocodile. Ah, crocodile, crocodile. Frank slowly walked over. There are crocodiles here. If you don't want to feed them, get lost. The children immediately hesitated. They were indeed frightened by the crocodiles, but they didn't want to leave. Chapter 1856. Frank crossed his arms over his chest and looked at the group of brats with a smile. The leader gritted his teeth and said, Let's go. This is a mountain, and the crocodiles can't come up here. Most likely, someone put a crocodile here. Since it's dead, there must be no more crocodiles. The kid's guess was reasonable. Normally, crocodiles wouldn't live at high altitudes. There was a water source, and there wasn't much food. Crocodiles appearing here could only be released on purpose. But limited by food, even if a few crocodiles were released, very few could survive. Frank sneered. There are a lot of crocodiles here. We won't believe you. You're scaring us on purpose. Yeah, why should we believe you? The kids felt that Frank was scaring them on purpose. Since you want to die, I can only call the police, Frank said. There really were a lot of crocodiles here. Frank wanted to see them embarrass themselves, but it was a matter of life and death. If he couldn't persuade them, he could only call the police. Hearing Frank's words, the kids were even more certain of their guess. Let's go. Ignore him. The kids excitedly ran to the lake. The kids were wearing swimsuits under their jackets. They took off their jackets and jumped into the water. Frank was anxious. He ran to the lake and dialed the police's number. This wasn't a joke. If something happened here and someone died, especially a group of miners, not only would he be in trouble, but even Stephen would be in trouble. Damn, there's no signal here. I should get a satellite phone. Frank was a bit angry. Hurry up, there really are crocodiles here, Frank said anxiously. But the kids were having fun. They didn't care about Frank's advice at all. The water quality here is so good. Yeah, it's so comfortable. It was a beautiful place with verdant hills and clear waters. It was a paradise. Of course, the water quality was good. If a creature lived here for a long time, it might develop intelligence. Don't swim any deeper. Come back quickly. Frank saw the group of children swimming deeper into the water. They didn't care about his warning at all. Frank became even more anxious. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the lake. Crocodile! Crocodile! A girl screamed. The scariest thing was that the crocodiles that appeared happened to be swimming in the direction they were heading. It directly blocked their way. Oh no! Frank became more and more anxious. He took out his gun and aimed at the crocodiles. However, the caliber and power of the pistol in his hand were very small. After all, it was impossible for him to carry a powerful weapon. Saltwater crocodiles were known for their thick skin and thick flesh. Small caliber pistols can hardly inflict fatal damage on them. The water also weakened the impact of the bullet's trajectory. It was harder for Frank's gun to do damage to them, unless, of course, he could hit their exposed heads. However, this was extremely difficult. Frank tried to fire, but the bullet hit the water and missed. Frank fired again, and a crocodile sank. However, the bullet did not hit the crocodile's head, but its body. At this time, another group of crocodiles surrounded the children from another direction. Frank's face was pale. He was at a loss. He could almost foresee that once the two groups of crocodiles surrounded the children, it would be a bloody feast of slaughter. At this moment, the grass moved, followed by a splashing sound. Raymond! Raymond is here! Frank saw Raymond's body slide into the lake. Then the lake began to churn. A crocodile floated to the surface with its belly up. Frank gulped. Then a second crocodile, a third. Quick, here! Swim this way! Frank shouted. The children also saw the dead crocodiles. They didn't have time to think about why the crocodiles suddenly died. However, they still swam in this direction. They weren't too far from the shore. Soon, they swam past the dead crocodiles. Frank helped them to the shore one by one. The children were all terrified. The lake was still churning. The crocodiles floated to the surface with their bellies up. By now they had calmed down. Their faces were full of doubt. Something in the water is killing those crocodiles. Yeah. The children looked at Frank. He must be in the know. He knows what's in the water. Soon, there were more than a dozen crocodiles' bodies on the surface. A crocodile's body was washed to the shore. Don't go over, Frank ordered. that crocodile might not be completely dead. However, these children were extremely daring. They ignored Frank's obstruction and went to flip the crocodile's body. The 4-meter-long crocodile needed the children to work together to flip it over. They found that the crocodile's neck had been bitten by something. Obviously, this thing was huge. At least its mouth could directly bite the crocodile's neck, and it was very powerful. This 4-meter-long crocodile's skin could almost block small caliber bullets, but it was bitten to a bloody pulp. The crocodile's neck was completely broken, and that thing's purpose wasn't to eat, but to kill. Sir, what's in the water? Frank looked at the children. After hesitating for a while, he finally said in a low voice, "Don't you know? There's a legend about the monster in this water. In the past 10 years, more than a dozen people disappeared here. Later, a rich man bought this forest and wanted to build a manor here. As a result, several people died as soon as the project started. The rich man had no choice but to raise crocodiles here, hoping to use them to kill the monster in the water. As a result, the number of crocodiles increased, and that thing began to eat crocodiles." The children shivered. Frank continued, "You're lucky. At least that thing prefers the taste of crocodiles, not you." "What about you? Who are you?" "I'm hired by the owner of this forest to guard this area and make sure that no one comes here to take risks. Did you see the truck parked at the foot of the mountain?" The children nodded. Frank pretended to be mysterious. "It's used to transport cattle and sheep. It's specially used to feed that thing in case it's hungry and attacks people who come here by mistake." Chapter 1857. The kids' faces turned pale with fear. Just then, the lake started churning again. After a while, a giant crocodile that was nearly 7 meters long floated up. Blood flowed out of the lake. Everyone's expression was unnatural. Even Frank was a little shocked. Of course, he was one of the lucky ones. After all, he had seen Raymond's true form. That was why he knew Raymond was terrifying. But that didn't stop him from being shocked. The rest of the children were also frightened. "You'd better leave." "I'm leaving too. Once the monster in the water changes its appetite, we'll probably become its target," Frank said and turned to leave. The kids didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly followed Frank. Seeing the scene, Frank finally let out a sigh of relief. If the kids didn't want to leave, it would be really troublesome. Then he would inform Stephen and let him handle it. It was true that any means of invading someone else's territory was allowed, but Stephen was a public figure, so he couldn't be reckless. As long as it was a stable society, minors would be protected as much as possible. Even if a minor made a mistake, public opinion would often side with the minor. "Jess, do you believe what he said? Whether he's telling the truth or not. At least there's a terrifying creature in the water," Jess said and looked meaningfully at his companions. "Linan, you don't believe him?" "No, I believe him," Linan said. Linan said, "Have you ever thought that if we can film a monster, then we'll be rich? Our video will cause a sensation, and we'll all become celebrities. But that monster eats people." Jess was a bit scared. After all, that thing could even kill crocodiles in groups. It would probably be very easy to deal with them. As for the Americans, they had been deeply affected by the monster movies. They were all a bit scared. Would it cause more trouble? "It's okay. That person said he comes here often. As long as he brings cows and sheep, he won't be attacked by the monster. It means that the monster doesn't have to eat people. It's fine as long as there's other food. Please, it's impossible for us to afford a cow, not even a sheep," Wang Yao said. "Let's pool our money. Maybe we can. How much does a sheep cost?" "It's only $100 or so." After Li Nan's fear faded, he began to feel a little excited. "Think about it. If we can film a real monster, as long as the video on Twitter has more than 10 million views, we can get $100,000. "I won't participate. That's a real monster," a girl said firmly. "I don't want to take the risk. I'm not joining either." The two girls in the small group expressed their stance. None of them wanted to get into trouble. The other two boys hesitated for a moment and finally chose to withdraw. Only Jesse was hesitant. He was tempted. Jess was the talk of the town and school. He loved to be in the limelight. He was also the one who led the fight against Frank. Lee Nan, on the other hand, came from a poor family. His record in school is very poor. What he wanted was not to be in the limelight, but to make money. What if we don't find the monster, but the crocodiles find us? Jay said hesitantly, "Those crocodiles aren't worth much." "It's fine as long as we don't go near the water source. Crocodiles can't run as fast as us on land. Are you sure the monster won't eat us like snacks if we find it? We can disguise ourselves. Monsters are monsters after all. It'll be fine." "I can get a gun," Lee Nan said. "My dad has a gun. Please don't." Jay's was calmer. "Your gun can't even kill crocodiles, let alone that monster." Didira was building a castle on the beach with Jerlin, Mara, and Sindora. Qin Zhao realized that Didira was really calm and reserved. She was the model daughter of a rich family. Qin Zhao didn't dislike Didira. He just hoped that she could be more open-minded. Didira wasn't like other kids who liked to make a fuss, or be gluttonous or cry. Even Portia would throw a bit of a tantrum, but Didira wouldn't. Didira didn't cry at all. Instead, she helped Qin Zhao and Fei Lai take care of the kids. Of course, Qin Zhao could still see some of Didira's immature behavior. For example, when they were shopping, Didira wanted to buy something. She would look at those things carelessly, but when Qin Zhao looked at her, she would avoid it and pretend to be careless. Qin Zhao was very troubled. Lying on the chair, Qin Zhao looked at Didira. After thinking for a while, Qin Zhao took out his phone and called Nawat Singh. "Nawat, I want to ask you something." "Chen, what do you want to ask?" "I think Didira is too introverted. It's even a bit abnormal. A child from a normal family wouldn't be so introverted. Whether it was in the East or the West, the current society gave children too many opportunities to interact with the outside world. Therefore, many of the children's characteristics were nurtured." Qin Zhao was worried that Didira had some mental illness, even depression. Depression was a very scary mental illness. Of course, it wasn't scary for others. Depression didn't cause damage or harm to others. It would harm oneself. Some patients with depression had some symptoms when they were young. Parents didn't pay attention to it, causing the illness to worsen. In the end, they would walk a path of no return. This wasn't what Qin Zhao wanted to see. He didn't know how to treat depression either. So, Qin Zhao wanted to take Didira to see a psychologist. However, Qin Zhao was also worried that taking Didi to see a psychiatrist would cause more serious psychological trauma. Qin Zhao planned to ask Nawat Singh about it first. "Didira, her background isn't good," Nawat said. "Her parents died in an accident when she was very young, and she was fostered at her uncle and aunt's house. I heard that her uncle and aunt didn't treat her well and even beat her." Nawat Singh said. Nawat paused. "Didira's worried that she'll be abandoned." "Oh, got it." Hearing this, Qin Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. It was a trauma, not a mental illness. Mental trauma wasn't good either, but at least it could heal her trauma. If it was a mental illness, it would be troublesome. Qin Zhao stared at Didira. After a while, he called Fei Lai. Chapter 1858. In the evening, Fei Lai returned. She also brought back a huge gift box. "Didi, come and help." Hearing Fei Lai's call, Didi immediately ran over to help Fei Lai carry the gift box. Didi wanted to ask what was in the box several times, but she resisted the urge and did not speak. The box was very heavy, at least dozens of kilograms. All the children gathered around, looking curiously at the square gift box that was almost as tall as a person. "Mom." Little Larissa ran to Fei Lai unsteadily. Little Larissa could understand the words "mom" and "sister" now, but it was still unclear. "Open it." Little Larissa shouted, pointing at the big gift box. Fei Lai turned to Didi. "Didi, do you want to know what's inside?" Didi hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Yes, it's for you. Open it, Phalai said. Huh? For me? Why? Where are my siblings? They don't have any, Phalai said. It's for you because you're the most obedient child. Didi stared at Phalai in a daze. Biting her lower lip, she still hesitated. Phalai patted Didi's shoulder. Go ahead. Didi finally went up and undid the knots on the box. Instantly, the box opened with a clatter. Inside was an exquisite boat model, a yacht model. Didi La, this yacht is the model of your uncle's customized yacht, and your uncle and I have decided to name it after you, the warrior Didi La. The boat model had been taken from Seagate. Chen Zhao had called Phalai earlier to ask her to take the yacht model. Huh. Didi was caught off guard. She wasn't a boat model enthusiast, but the yacht model before her really made her eyes light up. She liked the unique design and exquisite workmanship from the bottom of her heart. The other children also looked at the model enviously. Mom, I want it too. I want it too. Little Jerlin tugged at Phalai's pants. Little Jerlin, if you want it, you have to be as obedient as Sister Didi. It depends on your performance, Phalai said. Jerlin will be obedient. Jerlin clenched her little fists, as if she had made up her mind. Chen Zhao walked up and touched Didi's head. Didi, I'll bring the model to your room. Didi bit her lower lip. She wasn't good at expressing her feelings. Her eyes were filled with touched and happy tears. Thank you, Auntie, thank you, Uncle. Chen Zhao carefully brought the model to Didi's room. Dinner was held in the front yard. The inferior demons placed the dishes on the long table. Didi La, what else do you want besides the ship model and the naming of the new yacht? No, Didi said. I don't want anything else. Of course. Think about it, Phalai said domineeringly. What do you want the most? Didi, Didi said. Didi, Chen said. Didi, Chen did. Chen and Didi said. Chen said. Didi, Chen and Didi. Chen Zhao and Phalai were both stunned. They didn't expect Didi to make such a request. Chen, can you do it? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. But I need to make some preparations. Chen Zhao stood up. You guys eat first. Chen Zhao didn't even want to go around the world. But Didi Array had this wish. Chen Zhao naturally had to fulfill her wish. Chen Zhao needed to prepare equipment that could resist high temperatures and strong winds for Didi. Chen Zhao called Jolig first. Usually, Ruan Faisai was the most suitable person for this. But Ruan wasn't here, so Chen Zhao could only ask Jolig. Chen Zhao told Jolig about his request and intentions. Jolig accepted the request without hesitation. The request itself wasn't difficult. The main thing was the silver dragon skin. So, the request was simple. Of course. Chen Zhao also wanted a beautiful appearance. Chen Zhao wanted a set of equipment similar to superheroes. It didn't need any special functions. Gitkira and Dongya Tianchi were in charge of the outer shell. They finished it quickly. Then Jolig was in charge of further processing, covering the armor with the silver dragon skin. 2 hours later, Chen Zhao brought Didi to the headquarters. Didi, put this on. See if it fits. Chen Zhao picked up the helmet and put it on Didi. After putting on the helmet and the equipment, Didi's entire aura changed. She looked like a valiant Valkyrie. There was also a red cape on the back of the equipment. Of course, apart from being able to resist pressure and heat, the cape didn't have any other uses. The entire equipment was sealed. There were only a few ventilation holes on the back of the helmet. Didi, how do you feel? Chen Zhao was quite satisfied with Didi's appearance. Not bad. Pretty comfortable, Didi said. Uncle, what's this for? To go around the world, Chen Zhao said. Are you ready? Now. Of course, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. At the same time, Chen Zhao appeared in his strongest form. Jolig and the others also took a few steps back. Chen Zhao reached out. Come, sit on my arm. Didi hesitated, but he still sat on Chen Zhao's arm. Chen Zhao slowly rose into the air. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me immediately. Oh, got it. Chen Zhao didn't go at top speed right away. Instead, he slowly sped up. If the acceleration was too fast, Didi wouldn't be able to handle it. How do you feel now? Not bad, Didi said. Uncle, can you go faster? Yes, I'll speed up. Okay. Chen Zhao had calculated. With his speed, if he went at full speed, he could circle the Earth in less than 3 hours. The Earth's circumference was around 40,000 kilometers. Chen Zhao's top speed could reach Mach 15. However, Chen Zhao considered stopping at a few places and letting Didi play for a while. So, the estimated time for this trip was around 10 hours. Soon, Chen Zhao reached his top speed. Although Chen Zhao had brought Didi, he felt that his speed wasn't any slower than the last time. In fact, it was even faster. After all, last time the runway was short and he didn't have enough acceleration. Now, Chen Zhao had enough time to accelerate, so he estimated that his speed could surpass Mach 16. Chapter 1859. Didi, how do you feel now? Chen Zhao asked. Do you feel uncomfortable? No, I feel good. Didi looked at the vast sea, which was also rapidly retreating. Just then, 2 fighter jets appeared in front of them. With Chen Zhao's current speed, he must have been discovered by the satellites. Plus, the Americans must have recognized that Chen Zhao was the one who destroyed Nightingale. So, they didn't hold back this time and sent 2 fighter jets. The 2 fighter jets had appeared nearby. They must have taken off from an aircraft carrier. There should be a fleet nearby. Chen Zhao didn't want to fight with them. After all, he had Didi with him. Didi, let's go into the ocean now. Chen Zhao immediately lowered his altitude. Then he split the surface and dove into the ocean. Chen Zhao couldn't dive into the ocean like usual. After all, if he charged into the ocean at such a high speed, the huge inertia would break Didi's limbs. So, Chen Zhao entered the ocean in a gentle way. Chen Zhao controlled the seawater and traveled through it. After traveling for more than 10 minutes, he reappeared on the surface of the ocean. We're about to reach the Hawaiian Islands, Chen Zhao reminded. Let's go take some pictures there. Didi had never been to Hawaii before. He was quite excited now. But it's night now, Chen Zhao said. Hawaii is famous for its sunny beaches, so there's nothing fun here. My whole family will come again next time. I understand, Didi replied in a considerate manner. Right now, the Hawaiian beach was silent. Didi picked up a shell. Uncle, help me put it away. Chen Zhao looked at the shell. There was nothing special about it. However, he still put the shell away. Next stop, Mount Fuji, Chen Zhao said. Passenger, Miss Didi, please get ready. The flight is about to depart. Whoosh! Instantly, Chen Zhao set off again, heading straight for Mount Fuji. Didi wanted to go around the world, but if it was just going around, it would be meaningless. Chen Zhao wanted to go to some landmarks or scenic spots. Hawaii was about 6,000 kilometers away from Japan. In less than 20 minutes, Chen Zhao brought Didi to the sky above Mount Fuji. This is Japan's Mount Fuji. Do you see that forest? That's the Aoki Plains Forest Sea. That barren area was left behind after a great battle between me and a supreme demon. Didi looked at Mount Fuji in amazement. He also looked at the forest that Chen Zhao was pointing at. Will it be cold? No, I'm fine. At this moment, a red light pierced through the air. Chen Zhao's eyes narrowed. It was none other than the 9-tailed fox, Tamamo no Mae. Soon, Tamamo no Mae arrived before Chen Zhao. Although Tamamo no Mae was in human form, the 9 tails on her back were very obvious. Chen Zhao, are you here to fight me? Tamamo no Mae's lips curled up in a smile. She's the peerless great Yao that fought against me. Chen Zhao glanced at Tamamo no Mae. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to travel the world with my daughter. Tamamo no Mae stared at Chen Zhao, as if trying to determine if he was telling the truth. However, Qin Zhao and Didi did not linger here. They went straight to their next destination. Tamamonome looked at Chen Zhao's departing figure and cursed, "You run fast." Although she was unhappy that Chen Zhao came and left in such a hurry, she really could not do anything about his speed. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao had left Japan. According to the normal route, Qin Zhao's next stop should be Huaxia, but after careful consideration, Qin Zhao gave up on this idea. If Chen Zhao entered Huaxia in this state, neither the military nor the spiritual world would be happy. Chen Zhao could do whatever he wanted abroad, but he couldn't do the same in Huaxia. So, Chen Zhao decided to avoid Huaxia in the end. He followed the East Sea, passed the Shisha and Shisha Islands, and entered Vietnam. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly realized that there seemed to be a battle below. It wasn't a battle between normal people. It was a battle between the spiritual world. In Chen Zhao's original plan, Vietnam was not their stop. Qin Zhao planned to pass through Vietnam and enter Cambodia to see Angkor Wat. But the battle below still attracted Qin Zhao's attention. There was a muddy river below. It should be a tributary of the Mekong River. On the river, there were a dozen boats of various sizes and hundreds of spiritualists. Looking down from the sky, Chen Zhao could clearly see something swimming under the water. It was very large and long, at least 70 to 80 meters long. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of the blood-red mission, Mekong River Monster. That thing suddenly emerged from the surface of the water, and then directly knocked over a ship on the water. The people on the boat all fell into the water. Then the thing started eating. Those who fell into the water were all spiritualists. They weren't strong or weak, but in the water, they were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Chen Zhao could clearly see that it wasn't a dragon at all. It was more like a huge, sick eel. Chen Zhao could feel that this super eel had a very thick, demonic aura. It seemed to be a powerful demon. Moreover, Chen Zhao could feel a strong electrical energy from it. "No, we can't continue fighting on the water," an Asian man shouted. "This is the monster's home field. We have to find a way to lure it to land or shallow water." Boom! Just then, there was an earth-shattering sound. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Another boat was split in half. The people on the boat were turned into charcoal. "Damn, this monster can't be defeated. Send a signal to the other boats to retreat. We can't continue like this. If this continues, we'll all be wiped out." Is there no way at all? It's possible on land, but it's impossible on the water. Hu Yixian shook his head. Fine. The people on the boat were more complicated. There were blonde foreigners, but most of them were Asian. The consecutive losses made them lose their will to fight. The boat started to reach the shore, but the underwater attacks continued. Lightning also fell from the sky every now and then. After arriving at the shore, everyone scrambled to get ashore. As soon as Hu Yixian got off the boat, she saw two people standing on the shore. One was a huge giant. It was clearly a strengthening spell. The other was wearing strange equipment and a helmet. She couldn't see her face clearly. Judging from her figure, she should be a young girl. Weren't these two from this team? Chapter 1860. Friend, you are. Hu Yixian was the leader of the team, but he didn't know these two. Therefore, he cupped his fists and greeted them. However, he guessed that these two people in front of him were most likely here to participate in the Scarlet Mission. Just then, the river started churning again. The huge figure of the water monster was faintly discernible. It looked like it was going to rush ashore. Oh no! The water monster is close to the shore. Move back. Alarmed, Hu Yixian hurriedly told his companions to move back. Only Chen Zhao and Dadaira stood still. Dadaira, wait here. I'll be right back. Okay. Dadaira nodded. When Hu Yixian retreated, he looked back at Chen Zhao and Dadaira. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and retreat. Hu Yixian waved her hands and feet and shouted. However, he saw that the person didn't seem to realize the danger. He continued walking toward the river. By then, the water monster had reached the shore and poked its huge head out of the water. The water monster's body released a high-energy electric current. Dark clouds filled the sky. Affected by the water monster, they kept releasing electricity. Chen Zhao was huge, but compared to the water monster, he was like an ant compared to an elephant. Hu Yixin gasped. This was his first time seeing the water monster's true appearance. The others were the same. The water monster was scarier than they'd imagined. A power that could cause a celestial phenomenon was absolutely powerful no matter where it was. Chen Zhao looked at the water monster. This big eel should be half a step into the Shangqing realm. However, it was limited by the water. If it left the water, its power would be greatly reduced. But even so, its strength wasn't something that those people could match. The water monster pounced at Chen Zhao, its huge mouth going for his head. Chen Zhao punched the monster's head from below. Bang! Half of the monster's head was smashed. Everyone's jaws dropped as they stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Instant kill. That terrifying water monster had been instantly killed by this person? Just when everyone was in disbelief, the water monster suddenly moved again. The water monster suddenly moved again, and then its exposed body suddenly shrunk back into the water. At the same time, the damaged part of its head began to heal rapidly. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. This water monster's healing ability was so strong. He was not much weaker than Tamamo no Mei. Half of his head had been smashed off, yet he was still alive. Chen Zhao jumped into the water. In an instant, the river began to churn violently, creating huge waves that reached the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and thunder fell continuously. Everyone looked at the raging waves of the river in horror. Rumble! None of them had ever seen a battle of this level. Even though they had more than 10 ships and more than 100 spiritualists working together previously, it was still impossible for them to survive. The water monster also didn't display its true strength. In the water, Chen Zhao kept beating up the water monster. The water monster was very similar to Chen Zhao. He possessed the attributes of water and lightning, and at the same time he had a strong physical body. It was the same for Chen Zhao, but his control over water wasn't as good as the water monster's, while lightning was stronger. Therefore, they were basically equal in these two aspects. However, Chen Zhao's level was higher than the water monster. His physical strength far surpassed that of the water monster. The water monster felt it too, so it started to run away. Chen Zhao couldn't deal a fatal blow to the water monster. The strongest thing about the water monster was its self-healing ability. It was almost at Tamamo no Mei's level. Chen Zhao took out the black trident. The water monster instantly bristled and twisted its body even harder. It felt the threat of the black trident. It was a fatal threat. Chen Zhao stabbed the trident into the water monster's head. The moment the black trident pierced the monster's head, the terrifying power started killing the monster's cells. Chen Zhao twisted the black trident in his hand, and the monster's head was blown apart. In the murky water, Chen Zhao sensed two familiar energy sources. Chen Zhao fished in the water. Two internal cores that radiated the power of water and lightning fell into his hands. The two cores were similar to old turtles. However, the difference between the two was billions of times. Nevertheless, the two cores were useless to Chen Zhao. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't want to waste them, so he put away the internal cores and the water monster's body. Hu Yixin and the others looked at the river. It continued to churn for half an hour. Suddenly there was silence. Was the battle over? Everyone waited for the result. Who lost? Who won? Or was it a draw? Finally, a figure flew out of the river. A pillar of water exploded from the water. Everyone saw Chen Zhao's figure rise into the air and then land on them. Hu Yixin walked over in large strides. This time he didn't put his hands together. Instead, he cupped his hands and bowed. "Sir, how is the water monster?" "Dead," Chen Zhao answered indifferently. Hearing Chen Zhao's fluent Chinese, Hu Yixian's heart jumped. He must be a spiritualist from China. Sir, may I know your name? Hu Yixian asked. To Hu Yixian, Chen Zhao was most likely a top master in China. Although Chen Zhao looked very young in the form of the mighty miracle god, Chen Zhao was still very young. But to Hu Yixian, Chen Zhao was most likely an old man. No, Chen Zhao said indifferently. He turned to Didi. Didi, sit on my arm. Let's go. Hu Yixian was stunned for a moment. Why did this old senior suddenly speak English? Didi sat on Chen Zhao's arm and Chen Zhao shot into the air. Even the pressure from Chen Zhao's departure was unbearable. Who? Is he a spiritualist from China? So powerful, so scary, as expected of the most active supernatural region in the world. He's like a god. Who? Do you know where he's from? I don't know. That senior doesn't want to reveal his information. The remaining people were all amazed. That unbelievable power made them gasp in amazement. Unfortunately, Chen Zhao's unapproachable attitude made it impossible for them to befriend him. By now, Chen Zhao had reached the border of Vietnam. In the blink of an eye, he was in Cambodia. Chen Zhao paused for a moment to check his position and confirm the direction. Next is Angkor Wat. Didi, do you know Angkor Wat? No. Uncle, what's Angkor Wat? Angkor Wat was more like a Buddhist city than a temple. Angkor Wat was built by Suryavarman II in the 12th century and worshipped Vishnu. In Hinduism, Vishnu was the guardian of order among the three major gods. Buddhism itself was born from Hinduism. After it was introduced to China, it evolved into Zen to adapt to Chinese politics and customs. Chapter 1861. Chen Zhao deactivated his Titan form and had Didi put away his equipment. After all, this was a cultural heritage of mankind. He had to respect it. It was still nighttime in North America, but Cambodia was 12 hours ahead of North America. It was already noon. There were quite a lot of tourists here. Chen Zhao and Didi strolled around Angkor Wat like ordinary tourists. After staying in Angkor Wat for more than an hour, the two left again and went to the next place. They left Cambodia, crossed the Gulf of Thailand, entered the Myanmar Sea, and then passed the Bay of Bengal. Then they crossed India and entered the Arabian Sea. Chen Zhao and Didi did not stay in India. In Chen Zhao's impression, this was a dirty and messy country. More importantly, it was extremely unfriendly to women. They passed the Arabian Sea, entered the Gulf of Aden, entered the Red Sea, and then turned into Egypt. They had to go to the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx before coming to Egypt. This was the evidence left behind by the world's oldest civilization. Ancient Egypt and Egypt were not the same civilization. It was still morning in Egypt. They could barely see anyone. However, there were still Egyptian relics protection agencies here, so the two had to be more careful. After getting close to the Great Pyramid of Giza and taking pictures of the Sphinx, the two had breakfast in Cairo. Then they entered the Mediterranean Sea and crossed the European continent. Their next stop was England. Hey, Xan Li, where are you in England now? Uncle, we're in Edinburgh. Why do you ask? Are you in England too? Xan Li's voice sounded a little tired and sleepy. Not yet, but we'll be there soon. Okay, what time are you arriving? About 10 minutes later. What? Just then, Xan Li received a photo. Didi had sent it to her. 20 minutes later, with dark circles under her eyes, Xan Li watched Chen Zhao and Didi descend from the sky. Uncle, Didi, how come you're here? And you chose this time too. Look at the time. It's already 6. Although it was already 6:00 in the morning, England was still quiet at the moment. We're traveling around the world, me and Didi. Sister Shinli, we have been to Hawaii, Mount Fuji in Japan, and then we went to Vietnam. We saw the water monster there, and then we went to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Oh, right, before we came to England, we also took pictures on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx in Egypt. After that, we went to Cairo for breakfast. Xan Li's face was filled with shock. You're going to travel around the world just like that? Yeah. Qin Zhao nodded. Do you want to give up on your plan? I'll bring you along. Xianli rolled her eyes. Uncle. All right. I'm just giving you an idea. I'm not forcing you. Shall I rouse them all? Ask Sherlock. There's no need. Xianli wondered in her heart why she was the only one called up. When they reached a remote area, Chen Zhao and Didira stopped. Okay, we should go. Qin Zhao returned to his Jin form. Didi, we should go home. After all, this trip around the world was short, and it was mainly an impromptu idea. Along the way, they had skipped too many places worth stopping at. They left England and entered the North Atlantic Ocean. The target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. I repeat, the target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. What exactly is that thing? Is it China's secret weapon? Can't detect it. The target's main body is enveloped by a huge energy. Where is the Atlantic Fleet now? The Atlantic Fleet is currently at longitude 45. 5455, dimension 45. 66547, approaching the target's route. Order the Atlantic Fleet to intercept the target. Permission to fire freely. Target is approaching the Atlantic Fleet. The target is hiding in the sea again. What exactly is that thing? It can move in both the sky and the sea. Lost track of the target. Qin Zhao was so annoyed by the American fleet. They were too nosy. But this also meant that the American defense was indeed strong. Qin Zhao had originally planned to land on the East Coast and then take a detour back to Los Angeles. But now it seemed that if he entered American territory like this, it would probably provoke the Americans. It was very likely to provoke the nerves of the Americans, who might directly hit him with a nuclear warhead. So, Qin Zhao decided to take a detour and enter the Gulf of Mexico. Then he passed through the Mexican border. After that, he entered the Pacific Ocean again. Then he moved in the sea and returned to Mingyue Villa in Los Angeles. Whoosh, I'm home. Chen Zhao let out a long sigh. Although this trip around the world was more daunting than dangerous, Chen Zhao still considered it. He should learn some methods to avoid radars or satellites. Otherwise, he would be caught by radars or satellites every time he moved at high speed. Plus, with the Americans' overbearing habits, he would be harassed every time. It was really hard to guard against them. Is it still night in Los Angeles? Didi looked at Mingyue Villa in the night. It's almost morning. Qin Zhao patted Didi's head. Go rest. Uncle, can you take me to travel around the world in the future? Of course. Chen Zhao looked at Didi seriously. Didi, I'm not the kind of person who knows how to talk to people, but I hope that you can truly accept me and Feilai. What you're worried about won't happen. No matter what happens, we won't abandon you. Didi lowered his head and then looked up again. He silently reached out and hugged Qin Zhao. Can you let me go? I'm not good at dealing with situations like this. Chen Zhao said awkwardly, but Didi didn't let go. Fine, if you want, hug me. Chen Zhao said helplessly. Uncle, I'm hungry. You seem to have just had breakfast. I'm just hungry. The underlings are already working. See what's in the kitchen. Bring some to me too. Chen Zhao and Didi took some food and sat on the dragon's head, watching the sun rise from the horizon. The light was dazzling. Satisfaction was written all over Didi's face. I'm going to watch the sun rise every day. You eat so much. You need to exercise more. Uncle, I won't get fat just from eating. Every fat person thinks that, and then they become fat without realizing it. In the morning, Feilai woke up and saw Chen Zhao and Didi sitting on the dragon's head. Qin, Didi, did you finish your trip around the world? Of course, Auntie, we went around the world, and we also went to a lot of places. DDRA excitedly talked about the night's journey. Chapter 1862. Chen Zhao and Feilai hoped that their children would know how to make requests. They wouldn't think that it was already a great kindness to adopt you, but you still dared to make requests. A group of kids surrounded Didi, asking her about her trip around the world. Chun Zhao took out a few pieces of eel and barbecued them. Jerlin had been sleeping, but when she smelled the grilled eel, she immediately rushed out. "Dad, I want to eat, I want to eat." Not just Jerlin, but all the kids were drooling. Wait, after all, Chun Zhao hadn't tried the food yet. He didn't know if it was harmful. So, Chun Zhao didn't dare to give it to the kids. Chun Zhao finished the grilled eel in a few bites. Jerlin burst into tears. "Dad, you're so naughty. You didn't even give it to Jerlin." Chun Zhao looked at Jerlin as he ate the roasted eel. "If you keep crying, there won't be any food. Look, brother and sister aren't crying. Even little Larissa isn't crying. Are you embarrassed to cry?" Jerlin pouted and looked at Chun Zhao angrily. "Dad, if you don't give it to me, I'll cry, I'll cry." "Okay, there's more. There's a lot more." After confirming that there was nothing wrong with the eel, Chun Zhao took out more. He had to admit that the more powerful they were, the better the meat. Chun Zhao suspected that these powerful creatures were all strengthening their meat. Just then, Portia came and saw Chun Zhao barbecuing with the kids. "Boss, it's only morning. You're already barbecuing? Come and help," Chun Zhao said. He stood up and gave Portia the grill spot. "Boss, I'm your assistant, not your maid. Steven called me yesterday and said that you acted like a piece of shit during the audition. He's considering if he should recommend more movie roles for you." Portia was speechless. She sat before the grill and started barbecuing. "Take care of them today. Dee, help Portia look after the siblings too. I'm going out for a bit." "Okay, Uncle. Go do what you need." "Do you need me to bring anything?" "Snacks. I want snacks. I want fries and Coke. I want cake. I have too many snacks at home. I can't buy any more." Chun Zhao went straight to the headquarters of the supernatural organization. After arriving at the headquarters, Chun Zhao went to find West. "West, give this heroic spirit notebook to Wink Sieg." West flipped open the heroic spirit's notebook and saw the records. West was speechless. "President, you went to Vietnam last night?" "I was passing by and happened to run into the Mekong River monster," Chun Zhao said. "So I took care of it." West smiled bitterly. The difference in strength was just that big. No matter how hard the members of the association worked, they were still running around for every Scarlet mission, and he might not even be able to handle it. Every mission required a lot of preparation and screening. However, Chun Zhao had gone to Vietnam and completed a red mission. "Guild leader, although you've completed one Scarlet quest, we won't change our plans for the other 2 Scarlet quests," Aqua Rose said, shaking her head. "Up to you. This Mekong River water monster mission will be a backup." West thought for a moment before nodding and putting away the heroic spirit notebook. "West, put a new track for the ballistic testing device. It's too short. I use it to measure speed, but it's not good. The acceleration distance isn't enough." "Okay, the association has money now." After completing the Nordic Giant mission, Wenk Sieg had transferred some money to the association. "I plan to renovate the headquarters. What do you think, President?" "Sure." Chun Zhao nodded. "You decide. Then I'll contact your construction friend." "Okay." Chun Zhao nodded. "How about later? I'm planning to build a private airport too. I can ask him to build it together and save some money." There was a difference in the price of a project being constructed together and separately. Both Chun Zhao and the supernatural organization had a lot of money in their accounts, but Chun Zhao felt that he should save as much as he could. "Okay, when do you plan on leaving for the next Scarlet Quest?" "About a week later. I'll have to let you take care of the headquarters again." Chun Zhao saw that the headquarters would only come once every few days. Aduz was mainly in charge of guarding it. "Same rules. Call me if you need anything. Don't force yourself." "Got it." "By the way, President, do you know about the Battle of Holy Glory?" "Yes. Last time, Zhang Tianyi told me that he wanted you guys to participate and give you a few spots. I didn't take it." "Why not?" "Stunned. West looked at Qin Zhao in confusion. Why would you take it? There's no reward. It's just a useless title of holy glory. It's not permanent either. It's only for 10 years. I can't think of any benefits. What a pity. This was supposed to be a chance for our people to interact with the world's top spiritualists. West wasn't trying to increase his fame. He had the same idea as Qin Zhao. They both wanted to keep a low profile, but now he wasn't sure how big the difference was between the people of the association and the world's top spiritualists. So, if he had a chance to participate in this event, he would have a platform to interact with the top spiritualists. Having a platform to communicate with those top-notch spiritualists would also allow him to know what level they were at. In the North American region, the supernatural organization's power was already the top organization. But West also knew that there were even more powerful organizations and forces outside of North America. The strength of those organizations was not to be underestimated. Of course, the most powerful person in the supernatural organization was definitely Qin Zhao, the president. After all, Qin Zhao could already talk to the world's top 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi of Dragon Tiger Mountains, Celestial Masters sect on equal footing. But the balance of power in the supernatural organization was out of balance. Qin Zhao was unbelievably powerful, but the organization didn't have the power to crush everything. Most of the time, they still needed Qin Zhao to support them. For example, when they went on a Scarlet mission, Qin Zhao's line was always to inform him if there was trouble. West and the members of the organization had always wanted to catch up to Qin Zhao, but the gap was getting bigger and bigger. Qin Zhao's power made them feel despair every time. Are there any tickets? I asked Zhang Tianyi too. Are there? He told me to scram. Qin Zhao shrugged helplessly. President, ask Mr. Zhang if he can participate anonymously. West still hadn't given up on the idea of participating. Okay, I'll ask. Chapter 1863. After leaving the headquarters, Qin Zhao went to the supermarket. He wondered if he should ask Winnip to open a supermarket near Mingyue Villa. Of course, this idea was basically impossible unless Qin Zhao was willing to pay for it. Mingyue Villa was too remote. It was more than 30 kilometers away from the city. There were only roads along the way. There were no other buildings. Very few people walked on the roads. The kids at home had asked him to buy snacks, but Qin Zhao had rejected them. Nevertheless, he still planned to buy some snacks. Of course, the little referred to hundreds of snacks and happy otaku water. Carbonated drinks were said to be unhealthy. However, children also needed a certain amount of sugar when they were growing. Children like to eat sweets because they contain a lot of sugar. Nutrition was a very complicated field of study. It was even more complicated than medicine. Moreover, children of different ages had different nutritional requirements. Of course, when Qin Zhao and Fei Lai were at home, they would barbecue and drink beer. As long as one didn't overeat, the so-called junk food and happy otaku water wouldn't harm the body. Qin Zhao pushed the shopping cart out of the supermarket. Suddenly, a scene appeared in Qin Zhao's shadow eye. Qin Zhao took a step back. The snacks on the cart exploded. Another sniper? Who was it this time? The other party's movements were very fast, and after a single strike, he didn't care whether he hit the target or not. He hid behind cover. Qin Zhao's shadow I only saw an instant. He didn't even have time to identify his surroundings. However, from the bullet's trajectory, Qin Zhao could roughly confirm the direction. There were a few buildings in that direction that could be a sniper's temporary base. This was the first time Qin Zhao's shadow eye couldn't catch the enemy. Previously, Qin Zhao could even sense it from the International Space Station. But the shadow eye, which had always worked, actually met its Waterloo today. Of course, it wasn't a Waterloo. It was mainly because the enemy was well trained. If the enemy stared at Qin Zhao for 3 more seconds, Qin Zhao would be able to catch them. He was ambushed, but he couldn't even catch the enemy. Qin Zhao was depressed. Qin Zhao stood there and waited for a long time. He hoped that the enemy would attack again, but he didn't see the enemy attack again. In the end, he could only leave in disappointment. He knows there's a sniper, but he's still standing there. Jax glanced at the rear-view mirror. "This guy is either crazy or stupid," one of Jax's men said. "It could also be self-confidence," Jax said calmly. "If it's a handgun at close range, it's possible to dodge it, but it's a sniper rifle at such a long distance. No one can dodge it after being aimed," the subordinate said disdainfully. Obviously, he didn't agree with Jax's words. Most handgun bullets were round, and their ballistic speed couldn't even reach the speed of sound. Therefore, at close range, a person with sharp reflexes and a certain level of strength would have a chance to avoid it. However, the ballistic speed of most sniper rifles could reach 2,000 meters per second, which was about 6 or 7 times the speed of sound. If an assassin aimed at him with a sniper rifle and failed to dodge before firing, the probability of being hit was more than 80%. As for the 20% that didn't hit their target, it wasn't because they were dodged, but because they were off target. "That guy's senses are very sharp," Jack said. "I just pretended to look at him casually, and his footsteps changed. I've been in this business for 3 years, but I've never seen anyone who can really see behind their backs." Jax's subordinate was a little arrogant. "Just because you haven't doesn't mean there's no such thing. Even I don't have absolute confidence in winning against him," Jax said, somewhat relieved. "Luckily, I didn't accept this mission. We should keep some distance from this guy. His conflict with Joseph has nothing to do with us." Knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a soft knock on the car window. Jax looked up and saw Qin Zhao standing outside the car. Jax's subordinate immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Qin Zhao. "I heard your conversation just now. You're talking about me, right?" The subordinate looked at Jax. "Boss, what do we do?" Jax's expression was unsettled. Had Qin Zhao heard their conversation? This meant that Qin Zhao had been standing outside the car for a while, but the two of them hadn't noticed at all. This kind of strength that silently appeared in the vicinity was too terrifying. If Qin Zhao had attacked just now, the two of them might not even know how they died. "Mocha, put the gun down," Jax said. Jax rolled down the window, and Qin Zhao put his hands on the door. "Did the attack just now have anything to do with you?" "No, it has nothing to do with us," Jax answered. "Sir, we're just here to watch." "Watch? Why should I believe you?" Qin Zhao narrowed his eyes at Jax and Mocha. "Who do you think you are?" Mocha yelled. "Our boss said it has nothing to do with us, so it has nothing to do with us." Jax waved his hand, signaling for Mocha to shut up. "Sir, this really has nothing to do with us. Watching a show isn't fun. Since we're here, shouldn't we pay for the ticket?" "What do you want?" Jax asked. "Who attacked me? What's their relationship with you? How do you know?" "The person who attacked you was our employer, but we rejected him, so he found someone else." "What's his name?" "Joseph. He's called Hyena in the industry." "Why did you reject him?" "I don't think we're friends." "Because you're rich, just like our previous employer. You're richer than him. We usually don't attack super rich people because it's too risky. Plus, you were able to defeat 6 armed men unscathed a few days ago. This means that you're not to be messed with. When the risk is disproportionate to the reward, I choose to reject you. You know about the bank robbery a few days ago? What's your relationship with that? The people you beat up were hired by me, so we're still enemies." "No, at least I don't plan on being enemies with you. Please stop here. We don't have any conflict of interest." "Okay, one last question. Where can I find your previous employer, Mr. Hyena Joseph?" "Beverly Hills. He has 2 mansions there, but I'm not sure." Chapter 1864. Jax's attitude had always been one of compromise. This made Mocha very unhappy. He felt that Jax was too cowardly. A man should be tougher. There was no need for them to be so timid and even expose their employer's information. Anything else? I want more information. He might harm your family. Chen Zhao frowned at Jax's words. You really didn't participate? No, if we had participated, we wouldn't have appeared before you. Chen Zhao turned to leave. Just then, Mocha pointed her gun at him. This was a great opportunity. Jax was shocked. Originally, he was able to stay out of this matter, but Mocha had raised her gun recklessly, and before Jax could react, it was too late. He fired at Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao tilted his head to avoid the bullet. Everything was so natural. Chen Zhao turned around and walked toward Monica and Jax. Monica and Jax panicked. Misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Jax tried to calm Chen Zhao down, but Mocha made the wrong decision again. He fired directly at Chen Zhao. However, even though it was only a few meters away, it couldn't hit Chen Zhao at all. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao was before Mocha. Mocha turned pale with fright. He finally believed what Jax had said before. Some people's eyes were grown on their backs. Wait, sir. Pang! Chen Zhao pressed Monica's head down and smashed it against the window. Jax's hand went to the weapon at his hip. Chen Zhao pulled Monica out and pushed her toward Jax. Before Jax could take out his weapon, Mocha pounced on him and threw him to the ground. Chen Zhao stepped on Monica's back, making it impossible for Jax to get up. Sir, Mocha is just young and impetuous. Ah! Chen Zhao increased his strength and Mocha screamed again. Young people are full of vigor. He shot me with a gun. Is this called being full of vigor? I can help you make an appointment with Joseph, Jax said. Only then did Chen Zhao let go. Jax was annoyed by Monica's disobedience. He could have stayed out of it. Right now, he could only intervene. He didn't want to be enemies with Chen Zhao. Likewise, he didn't like to be Joseph's enemy. He knew how terrifying Joseph was. That was the most despicable and vicious person he had ever known. There was no other. Of course, he also had his own armed forces. Other tycoons relied on their own influence to prevent others from coveting their wealth. However, Joseph had no influence, so he could only rely on his own equipment. Half of his money was used to arm his personal forces. He was like a warlord among the rich. In addition, he was involved in some of the businesses: drugs, firearms, people, and even organs. Therefore, he gathered a group of vicious criminals under his command. There were dozens of armed men living in his house all year round. Even his butler, servants, and chefs were wanted criminals. But now he had to make a choice. They were either on Chen Zhao's side or Joseph's. Of course, if he stood on Joseph's side, he would have to face Chen Zhao right now. And Mocha's rash actions just now had already caused them to lose the qualifications to be spectators. Jax, I'm not in Beverly Hills right now. I'm at my villa in the suburbs. A villa in the suburbs? How come I didn't know you had property in the suburbs? Huh, I just got it. The original owner is a good person. He only took $1 from me, haha. Give me the address, Jax said. I have something to talk to you. Okay, I'll send you the address now. After hanging up, one of Joseph's subordinates said, Boss, Jax has been in contact with that person. Got it, Joseph said disapprovingly. Let our people prepare to welcome our guests. On the wall of the room, a man was hanging on the wall. In front of Joseph, there was a naked woman. However, this woman's arms and legs were broken, and she was lying on the table. She no longer had any reaction to Joseph's actions. Just at this time, Joseph suddenly let out a high-pitched voice, and his body trembled. Damn bitch, no reaction at all. Joseph kicked the woman, and she fell to the ground. Bring a Bao and Gates here. One of his subordinates brought 2 hounds that were barking and baring their fangs to Joseph. My darling, she's your dinner. Joseph squatted down and touched the 2 dogs, then untied their collars. Ah! The woman, who had no reaction, suddenly screamed and struggled. But facing the 2 ferocious dogs, The woman with her limbs broken couldn't fight back at all. The two dogs' mouths were full of blood and flesh, and they tore at the poor woman crazily. The man hanging on the wall struggled with all his might. It clearly wasn't the first time the two dogs had bitten someone. They knew how to make the victim suffer even more. They didn't bite the woman's throat. The woman kept screaming, but she couldn't die. She was already a bloody mess. Joseph slapped his head and said with a face full of regret, "Oh no, I shouldn't have let them eat here. I really like this carpet. Do you know how to clean this kind of knitted wool carpet?" "Forget it. Let's change the carpet." Joseph sighed. "This carpet should be an Arab merchant's carpet." Just then, one of his subordinates came to Joseph. "Boss, Jax is here." "Oh? How many?" "One car, 3 people. Other than Jax and his subordinate, Mocha, there's one more person who's our target." "3 people? There aren't any other cars behind them?" "No." "Ha! Let them in," Joseph said proudly. I didn't think that Jax would actually bring them to me, even though he said no. Soon, Jax, Mocha, and Chin Zhao were surrounded by Joseph's subordinates. A few people came over to search him. His phone was also taken away. "Please keep my phone safe for me." Chin Zhao smiled at the person. The person looked at Chin Zhao with a cold smile. Jax and Mocha looked at Chin Zhao in confusion. They'd thought that Chin Zhao would call someone, but Chin Zhao had come alone. To them, this was no different from walking into a trap. They really didn't understand Chin Zhao's intentions. Did he think that he could solve all the problems by himself? The person who'd taken Chin Zhao's phone pushed him. "Let's go. My boss is waiting for you. Don't let him wait too long. He doesn't have a good temper." Chapter 1865. Chin Zhao walked into the living room and saw a man hanging on the wall. There was also a woman who had been bitten into a bloody mess. Frowning, Chin Zhao walked up and kicked the 2 dogs away. He squatted down to check the woman. She was still breathing. She wasn't completely dead. Chin Zhao fed the woman a bottle of medicine. Joseph looked at Chin Zhao quietly, a faint smile on his face. "Sir, this isn't the attitude a guest should have." Chin Zhao stood up again and looked at Joseph. "You want to kill me?" "Huh. Don't make it sound so bad. I just want to borrow some money from you," Joseph said disapprovingly. "If I really wanted to kill you, you would already be lying on the ground." With that, Joseph waved at his subordinate. The subordinate who'd taken Chin Zhao's phone took out a contract. "Come, sign this document." Chin Zhao sat on the sofa and crossed his legs. He picked up the document and glanced at it. It was an IOU. It meant that Chin Zhao had borrowed $2 billion from Joseph. He was going to use all of his properties as collateral. "How is it? Are you satisfied with the contract?" "It's not about whether I'm satisfied or not. It's about whether you have the ability to make me sign it." Chin Zhao smiled at Joseph. "I heard you have a beautiful wife and 2 daughters, right?" Joseph pointed at the man hanging on the wall. "He rejected my request before, too. This is his wife." Chin Zhao looked at Joseph, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. "I said that I need you to prove whether you have the ability to force me to sign this contract." Just then, the person who'd taken Chin Zhao's phone took out a gun and pointed it at the back of Chin Zhao's head. But the next moment, Chin Zhao turned around without any warning. Crack! The man's arm was broken. Chin Zhao took back his phone unhurriedly. "Good thing my phone isn't broken." Someone! Joseph's bloated body hid behind the sofa with unimaginable agility. Numerous noises could be heard from outside. Chin Zhao looked at the lights in the room and then at the man hanging on the wall. He walked over and tore off the seal in the man's mouth. "Your villa should have a butler system, right?" "Kill him! Kill him for me!" the man roared. "Give the butler an order to cut off the power to the entire villa. Cut off the power." The entire villa district's power supply was instantly shut down. Everything was plunged into darkness. Even the starlight in the night had disappeared. Then a scream came from outside the door. Da-da-da, boom boom. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into a battlefield. Gunshots and explosions filled his ears. Of course, there were also the inevitable screams. At this moment, Jax and Mocha both found a place to hide. They had no idea what was going on. It was unbelievably dark here. There was no light except the flash of the gun and the explosion. Not even the fire was lit. This kind of dark environment was really unsettling. Finally, the gunfire stopped. The entire villa district was silent, as if it was a silent hell. Everyone held their breath. How's the situation? Who lost? Who won? Just then, Chen Zhao's voice sounded in the darkness. You can turn the lights back on. Connect the power. When the lights came on, everyone felt that their eyes weren't used to it. A few seconds later, they opened their eyes again. But all they saw was a sea of blood. The living room was filled with corpses. All the corpses were piled up in the living room. More than 100 corpses were piled up into a small mountain. Blood had covered the entire living room. The scene sent chills down one's spine. This was a true hell of flesh and blood. Jax and Mocha were both elites among mercenaries. But now they were truly afraid. What kind of monster was this? Qin Zhao stood beside the pile of corpses. His body was covered in blood, and his hands were in his pockets. This guy was an even more terrifying demon than Joseph. Joseph's evil couldn't compare to this man at all. Mocha felt her scalp go numb. How did she have the courage to shoot him? How could she do something so stupid? Qin Zhao walked over and pulled the man down, loosening the rope around his wrist. The man immediately wanted to pounce on Joseph, but Chen Zhao stopped him. With a meaningful smile, Chen Zhao said, "There's still a long time tonight. Don't you want to have some fun?" Joseph's face was pale and his limbs were trembling. Chen Zhao walked over to the woman and put her on the sofa. "Your wife isn't dead yet," Chen Zhao said. "Go get a basin of water. If she's lucky, she might survive." The man knelt before his wife and started crying loudly. "Mayev, I'm sorry. It's my incompetence that hurt you." The woman called Mayev's eyes were unfocused. Her body and mind were both broken. Qin Zhao turned his head and glanced at Jax. "Mr. Jax, when I'm treating this lady, I hope some people can keep quiet and not disturb me." Jax took a deep breath. "Happy to help, Mr. Qin." "Lady, it might be very painful, crack." Qin Zhao straightened Mayev's arm. Mayev arched her body, but now she didn't make a sound. Qin Zhao sensed that Mayev's aura had weakened. He sent a bit of celestial power to protect her heart. Terrified, Joseph gradually calmed down and secretly took out a gun from his back. Bang! "Ah!" Jax blew at the smoke from the muzzle. "Sorry to disturb you," Jax said. "Mocha, go get some tape and seal Mr. Joseph." Chen Zhao didn't get distracted. He continued treating Mayev. Jax was very rational. He didn't have Mocha's impulsiveness, especially after the massacre. "Sir, Mayev, does she still have hope?" "The environment here is simple. I can keep her alive for now, but her injuries need to be changed. I'll call the hospital now." "No, the hospital can't save her," Qin Zhao said. Then what?" Qin Zhao lowered his voice. "A secret place, but you can't reveal it. You and your wife can go there temporarily, but I don't want you to tell anyone about it. Do you understand?" I understand. I'll agree to any of your requests. You can take my assets too." "No need. I'm not interested in your assets." Chapter 1866. "Darling, I might not be able to go back tonight." Qin Zhao called Fei Lai first. "A bug is planning to use you and the child to threaten me. I'm killing it now." "Okay, wash up when you come back. I don't want you to bring the bug's smell home." "I'm busy. I'll hang up now." Qin Zhao hung up. Everyone was thinking about Qin Zhao's wife. Qin Zhao called Klaus again. Klaus, I'll send you the address. Drive the helicopter over and need a stretcher. Someone's heavily injured and needs to be taken to HQ. Also, have Jolig prepare a container. Got it, President. Qin Zhao put away the phone and stood up again. Now, we can deal with our main guest today. Qin Zhao looked at Joseph. Don't be rash. Do you know how powerful I am? Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you killed a few of my people? Qin Zhao ignored Joseph's threat. He turned to the man beside him. What do you think about steaming? No, that's too easy on him. Then skin him. I still can't vent my anger. How about we bring him back alive? I have many options for you to choose from. There's bound to be one that suits you. Of course, I also want him to die in pain. After all, no one has ever dared to use my family to threaten me. The man thought for a moment and finally nodded heavily. He controlled the beast in his heart. He was afraid that he would suddenly lose control and kill this demon. A while later, the helicopter arrived. Klaus arrived with the lightning squad. When Klaus entered, he immediately covered his nose. President, yes, leave 2 people here to deal with this. 2 more people come and carry this woman to the helicopter. These 2 look like mercenaries. Klaus looked at Jax and Monica. The 2 immediately exploded. Klaus's gaze made them very uncomfortable. It was a gaze even more explicit than Qin Zhao's. No need, Qin Zhao said. Let them stay and deal with the bodies, then let them go. Qin Zhao and the man sat in the helicopter. Joseph was used as a footrest and laid flat in front of the seat in the helicopter. What's your name? Jiggs. Jiggs stared at Joseph on the ground. His hands were trembling. However, he controlled his emotions very well. Just like the most delicious main dish, it must be served last. The helicopter slowly landed at the headquarters. Carry your wife, Qin Zhao said, but Jiggs looked at Joseph on the ground. Don't worry, he's yours. Here, you have a lot of time to satisfy your hatred for him. Only then did Jiggs pick up Maiev. Jolig and West came out to help. Jiggs carried Maiev to a room. Put her in that container. Qin Zhao pointed at a container in the center of the room. Jolig, get the oxygen pump. Qin Zhao instructed everyone. After putting on Maiev's oxygen mask, the container was filled with water. At the same time, he poured the perfect demonic crystal mixture into a container and poured 3 bottles into it. Then he started pouring his immortal power into the container. Jiggs looked worried. Mr. Qin, can Maiev survive? Sure. Qin Zhao and Jolig started adjusting the heart rate monitor. There were basically all kinds of equipment in the association. Maiev was completely soaked in the liquid. After some work, they finally finished installing all kinds of equipment. Heart rate monitor, alarm, body temperature monitor, water temperature monitor. Jolig was in charge of the other aspects. Qin Zhao couldn't help much. It's done, Jolig said. Jiggs, let's go. It's time for revenge. Jiggs took a deep breath and walked out of the headquarters. Right now, Joseph was yelling in the empty space. He kept threatening everyone here with vicious words. However, his voice woke up the people who were resting. Many poked their heads out and looked at Joseph curiously. President, what's wrong with this guy? Helis walked out with a dark expression. A bug, Qin Zhao said calmly. Almost everyone came to watch. The evil spirit group came too. They were curious who dared to say such things here. Jiggs was still angry, but he was worried. He asked in a low voice, Mr. Qin, so many people are watching. Will your decision be okay? Huh. These guys like to watch more than me. I can do whatever I want. Of course. I want sulfuric acid, Jiggs said tentatively. Hey, you have potential. You want to soak him in sulfuric acid? No, I'm going to pour it into his stomach. Jiggs, don't you dare. Joseph roared. I'll feed your whole family to the dogs. Sulfuric acid isn't fun. He'll die too quickly. I have something fun, Hila said. Jiggs shuddered. This young girl's words were terrifying. What is it? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Let me see. Helis returned to her lab. A few minutes later, she took out a bottle of black liquid. Jiggs took the bottle and looked at the black liquid inside. The black liquid seemed to be alive. It kept climbing up. What is this? Jiggs felt his hair stand on end. He instinctively felt that the black liquid in the bottle was something very dangerous. This is called the spirit of death. You can only get this much from 100 rotting corpses. Jiggs almost dropped the bottle on the ground. 100 rotting corpses? This was extracted from rotting corpses? Hold it tight, Helis reminded. If you drop it, it'll contaminate the place. It'll be very troublesome to deal with. What will happen if he drinks it? Let him try. You'll know soon enough. Chen Zhao went up and pinched Joseph's mouth. Come here and pour this down. When Jiggs opened the bottle, a pungent, rotten stench rushed out. Jiggs immediately aimed the bottle at Joseph's mouth. Ugh! Joseph struggled with all his might. Jiggs saw that the black liquid in the bottle didn't flow into Joseph's mouth. Instead, it crawled into his mouth. Chen Zhao closed Jiggs's mouth and pushed it away. Wah! Joseph fell to the ground and howled. He kept grabbing at his throat. Then he started retching again. Apart from saliva, nothing came out. Chapter 1867. Joseph scratched his throat, but he couldn't spit anything out. At the moment, he was in extreme pain. He kept rolling on the ground. Joseph was in extreme pain. His clothes were torn too. At this moment, something seemed to be drilling under his skin. Jiggs took a few steps back in fear. He stared at Joseph in shock. It was a twisted face. The strange face wriggled under Joseph's skin. It wasn't just one. A second face appeared too. Jiggs had never seen such a strange scene before. It made him forget his hatred. He kept staring at Joseph. Save me! Save me! Joseph stood up with difficulty. He staggered toward Jiggs. At this time, even his head was deformed. On the left side of his head, another face appeared. His head doubled in size too. The other face had a strange expression. Then his body expanded too. More than 10 faces appeared on his body, covering his front, back, left, and right in layers. Then his limbs were covered by the twisted faces too. Jiggs retreated in fear, his face pale. Roar! I'm going to kill you. Kill all of you! Jiggs howled. He looked even scarier, but at the same time he suffered even greater pain. Disbelief filled Jiggs' face. What's wrong with him? I don't know. It looks like he's accepted the spirit of death. Disgusting. He can even fuse with such a filthy substance. His soul must be filthy too. Harris took a few steps back in disgust. Klaus took out a machine gun and handed it to Jiggs. You can shoot him as hard as you can to vent the hatred in your heart. Jiggs froze. He looked at the twisted Joseph, still hesitating. Just then, Joseph pounced at Jiggs. Jiggs pulled the trigger instinctively. Bang, bang, bang. Joseph took a few steps back. Jiggs lost his balance and fell to the ground. Joseph charged at Jiggs again. Jiggs covered his head in fear. But the next moment, he heard a dull thud. He lowered his arm and saw Chen Zhao standing before him. Joseph, on the other hand, was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He can't hurt you here, Chen Zhao said. Klaus, give him a stronger weapon. Wait, I'll go get the Gatling from the warehouse. Not long after, Klaus brought out a full set of Gatling guns. Of course, Jiggs couldn't just shoot with the Gatling gun. We still need cows to set up the shelves. All right, you can start firing now. Jiggs was still in a daze when he was dragged to the Gatling rack. This was his first time playing with this thing. Joseph roared and became even crazier. Kill, kill, kill. Kill all of you. Everyone stepped aside. Jiggs took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. Da-da-da-da-da. The sound of the Gatling gun firing was completely different from that of a normal machine gun. Shell casings poured down like rain, and the bullets were also shot out crazily. Joseph didn't even manage to run a few steps before his body was shot into pieces. Jiggs continued to vent the hatred in his heart. The hatred in his heart was constantly released with the firing of the Gatling gun. Jiggs didn't stop until he finished shooting. By now, Joseph had already become a pile of rotten meat, but there was still something wriggling in the pile. He's not dead. Jiggs's face was filled with shock. This thing is really resistant to physical attacks. At this moment, Joseph stood up again. What a special feeling. This feeling of being reborn is really intoxicating. It'll be even better if I use this power to kill you all. Joseph's body wasn't so big anymore. Instead, it shrunk a lot, but it seemed to have become even more terrifying. His arms turned into blades. He was intoxicated by his new power. Jiggs's face was pale. Did I go overboard? Jiggs looked at Chen Zhao and the others. He realized that they weren't worried at all. Instead, they looked at Joseph's new form with interest. Suddenly, Jiggs saw a white figure descend from the sky and land behind Joseph. What is that? Joseph also felt a chill on his back. He suddenly turned around, and the blade on his arm slashed behind him. The blade passed by Pamela's body, and she was cut in half. But Joseph's arm turned into ice, and Pamela's body was back to normal. Little guy, who did you say you wanted to kill? When Joseph heard Pamela's voice that was as cold as winter, he retreated in fear and looked at Pamela warily. Pamela, he's our toy. You don't have to do anything. Yes, President. Pamela floated out of the circle. Jiggs turned his stiff neck and looked at Chen Zhao. That is, as you can see, the people gathered here aren't normal people or not human, Chen Zhao said calmly. For example, Lady Pamela. She's a banshee. There are hundreds of evil spirits beside you. They're Lady Pamela's evil spirit army, Harold said. But you can't see them. Jiggs gasped. Coldness invaded his entire body. Right now, Joseph was like a trapped beast, terrified and helpless. He wanted to explode, but everyone here made him powerless. In Chen Zhao's group, he was a pitiful bug. Only then did Jiggs realize the true secret here. Why would Chen Zhao say that before bringing him here? Okay, push the meat grinder over, Chen Zhao said. Rumble, the meat grinder made a loud noise. The ear-piercing sound made Joseph even more uneasy. He turned to run, but a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Joseph was blasted away. Did I allow you to leave? Chen Zhao looked at Joseph. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Joseph screamed, but his pleas couldn't make anyone pity him. Chen Zhao went up and grabbed Joseph's neck. Joseph reached out and stabbed at Chen Zhao's chest, but the blade on his arm couldn't do any damage to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao broke Joseph's arms with his other hand. You should be more obedient. Chen Zhao had someone bring a bag and put Joseph inside, but he left his head outside. Then Chen Zhao casually tossed the bag and Joseph into the meat grinder. Tragic cries spread through the entire headquarters. Chapter 1868. The scream made Jiggs' hair stand on end. Blood sprayed out from the end, but the flesh started wriggling again. Joseph stood up once more. Jiggs was in disbelief. He still couldn't kill him? Did he have an immortal body? Even Joseph couldn't believe it. Even Joseph couldn't believe it. He'd gone through the meat grinder and still couldn't kill himself. Ha ha! Joseph laughed wildly. I have an immortal body. I can't die. It's your turn now. President, this guy is kind of dumb, but cute, Jalanash said teasingly as she looked down at Joseph from the window. There is no such thing as an immortal body in this world. True people in the supernatural world all knew this. There was no true immortal body in this world. If he couldn't be killed yet, it was only because he hadn't found a way to kill him yet. Joseph was far from being unkillable. Halley's knew 100 ways to kill him. Moreover, the spirit of death wasn't some heaven-defying substance. Only a noob like Joseph would think that he'd obtained incredible power. "President, do you need my help?" Dongya Tianchi held the katana in his hand. He flicked his thumb, revealing a line of the blade. Even though it wasn't completely unsheathed, the white-faced ghost still emitted a terrifying demonic aura. "No need. He can't take one hit from you." The white-faced ghost's slash wasn't a physical attack. No matter what it slashed at, it only needed one slash, and one slash was enough to kill. Of course, there were only two types of enemies. One was those he couldn't beat. For example, he couldn't fight against someone like Qin Zhao. The other was those who were weaker than him. He could kill them with one hit. Immortality was just a joke in front of him. He could seal off vitality with one hit, even if the target wasn't alive. Qin Zhao looked at Jiggs and asked, "Do you want to kill him with your own hands?" "Can he be killed?" "How?" Qin Zhao took out a bottle and handed it to Jiggs. Jiggs realized that the bottle was filled with red liquid this time. Judging from its viscous state, it looked like some kind of blood. "What's this?" "Just pour this on him, and you'll be able to kill him instantly." Jiggs gathered his courage and walked toward Joseph. Joseph still wanted to intimidate Jiggs. But the next moment, Pamela blew a breath of cold air at Joseph from a dozen meters away. The lower half of Joseph's body was frozen solid. "Get lost. Don't come near me," Joseph roared. The bottle in Jiggs's hand made him very uncomfortable. Jiggs opened the bottle cap, and a gust of hot air rushed out. "What exactly is this thing? Why does it make me feel so hot?" Jiggs splashed the red liquid on Joseph's body. "Ah!" Joseph screamed again. She wondered how many times he had screamed tonight, but it was different from before. Before, he only felt pain, but this time he felt death. Joseph's flesh began to burn. Or even boiling, it was a more painful process than being thrown into a meat grinder. Soon, Joseph's entire body was set ablaze. Even the ice was melted. Joseph held in pain and struggled. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't extinguish the flames on his body. Jiggs hurriedly took a few steps back to avoid being affected by the flames on Joseph's body. What kind of liquid was that? It could actually burn. He didn't know that the bottle just now contained the blood of a fire dragon. The blood of a fire dragon contained a large amount of fire element. It also had a powerful exorcism effect. Normal evil spirits wouldn't dare to touch it. Just a little bit, and their souls would be ignited. Joseph wasn't even strong. Many twisted monsters had his regenerative abilities. It wasn't a unique ability, and Joseph thought he was invincible. In reality, if he was hit a few times, he would lose his consciousness and become a twisted monster. Many people in the society had seen this stuff and were already used to it, especially since Hallie's would come up with one every few days. The things that Joseph and Hallie's had created were not the most powerful. Finally, there was no more sound from Joseph. His body was turning into ashes. Jiggs let out a long sigh. He was a little disappointed. Joseph was dead. He suddenly regretted killing Joseph so quickly, but he was still a normal person. While Joseph was still alive and kicking, he was still in a state of panic. He was afraid that Joseph would lose control accidentally. But after Joseph died, he felt that he'd let Joseph off too easily. At this moment, another bolt of lightning suddenly descended, directly bombarding the still burning ashes. Qin Zhao's last strike had completely turned Joseph's bones into ashes. "Okay, this ends here. Jiggs, you can stay here until your wife recovers," Qin Zhao said. "Remember what I told you. I won't tell the outside world about this place. Maiev won't either." Qin Zhao nodded. "Take him to a room." Jax and Mo walked out of the mansion. They'd been dealing with the corpses for most of the night. Suddenly, Jax lifted his leg and kicked Mo's, but Mo was kicked to the ground. "Boss, you almost killed us." Jax didn't feel good. They'd been enjoying the show. But Mo's reckless behavior not only dragged them into the situation, they'd also offended Qin Zhao. Chun Zhao didn't kill them both. It was already God's blessing. Jax was furious, but he didn't dare to take revenge. He could only vent it on Mo Ka. Plus, it was Mo Ka's fault in the first place. Mo Ka rubbed his butt and stood up. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. He followed Jax, silently. "Tell our people to leave L.A. immediately," Jax said. "We can't stay here anymore." "Boss, will that person kill us?" Mo Ka asked in fear. "Now you're scared? Why didn't you look scared when you attacked?" Mo Ka didn't dare to talk back. How could he not be scared? In 20 minutes, he'd killed more than 100 people. He'd never killed so many people in his life. He'd never seen such a terrifying person or enemy. The mercenaries and killers that disappeared in L.A. in the past 2 years were probably done by that person, Jack said. He probably thinks that L.A. is his territory. If we stay here, we'll only give him an excuse to attack us. Chapter 1869. England, Edinburgh. This was the capital of Scotland and the most developed city in England apart from London. It had a strong industrial base and high-tech industries. Of course, it was also a very famous cultural city. Ruan Faxben led the way, followed by Xen Li, Kalon Moore, and Lisa. They were standing in front of a castle. Edinburgh was located at the mouth of the sea on the east coast of Scotland, so many castles here were built on cliffs. The castle in front of them, called Death Valley, was built on the cliffs of the coastline. Death Valley Castle was not inferior to Edinburgh Castle at all. They didn't know why this castle had such an ominous name. They came to Death Valley Castle today to visit the owner of the castle. However, when everyone entered the Death Valley Castle, an eerie chill assaulted them. "It's so uncomfortable here," Kalon said, touching his goosebumps. There were some modern appliances in the castle, but the overall style still retained the ancient style. Of course, some damaged areas had been repaired. Due to the original design flaw, the inside of the castle was not transparent. It gave people a particularly eerie feeling. Death Valley used to be the territory of the leader of the rebel army, Earl Nagrand Vagris. However, the rebel army was eventually defeated by the government. It said that Earl Nagrand Vagris was hanged in the deepest part of this castle, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan Faxben said, "The castle and the noble title are now inherited by the descendants of Earl Nagrand Vagris." Just then, a clear sound of footsteps could be heard. "It's not the rebel army, it's the Revolutionary Army." A woman walked over. The woman had long blonde hair, was tall, and wore high heels. She looked smart and capable. The woman looked at everyone with a condescending gaze. "I'm Nala L., Mr. Vagris's assistant. Are you the one who wants to see Mr. Vagris?" "Beautiful lady, I'm Ruan Faxben." "Hello." Ruan Faxben reached out his hand, but Nala L didn't. This made Ruan Faxben feel rather awkward. His hand froze in the air, not knowing whether to withdraw or release it. "Wait here. I'll go inform Mr. Vagris. Although you have an appointment, Mr. Vagris's temper has always been erratic. He might not see you." Knock, knock, knock. Nala Iyer stepped on the heaven-hating heights and left. Her footsteps were as arrogant as she was. "What an unlikable woman," Ruan Faxburn murmured. "Faxi, it's mainly because you're not likable. You're already in your 40s, and you're the kind of person who doesn't care about your appearance. Why do you have to act like a gentleman?" Risa teased. "Shut up. I'm not even 50 yet," Ruan Faxi yelled in annoyance. "If the president is here, he can definitely change that woman's attitude." "Bullshit. The president is so young. How could he have the temperament of a mature man like me? But the guild leader is more charming than you." "That's right. Uncle is a perfect man," Xianli said. "Handsome, young, gentle, rich, and powerful." Ruan Faxben rolled his eyes. "Little girl, you haven't seen your uncle's cruel side, right? If he gets angry, he'll transform into a demon. Even if he's angry, there must be a reason." Xian Li was Chun Zhao's diehard fan. Also, I can feel a strong sense of jealousy from your tone. You're jealous of him. Ruan Faxben turned his head away, asking for a snub. Facing a brainless fan, no words could wake her up. Just then Nala Iyer returned. Everyone immediately quietened down. Mr. Vagris agreed to see you, but you better be mentally prepared. Mentally prepared for what? Nala Iyer hesitated. Mr. Vagris is a bit weird. He always thinks of himself as a vampire. It's fine, Ruan Faxben said, smiling. We'll cooperate with his performance. All right, please follow me. After passing through the long corridors, they finally reached the depths of the castle. A man in classic British aristocratic attire leaned against the window, looking at the sea outside. Count Vagris. Ruan Faxben put one hand on his chest respectfully and bowed with his head lowered. Shouldn't vampires hide in dark rooms? Aren't you afraid of the sun shining on you? Reset tilted her head and looked at the man before her. It's the sun now. It's in the other direction of the castle. It can't shine here, Nagran Vagris said. Nagran Vagris said, and vampires hate the sun, not fear it. Ruan Faxben knew that one of Chen Zhao's subordinates was a vampire, but he hadn't heard that Chen Zhao was afraid of the sun. Nagran Vagris waved at Nala Iyer, gesturing for her to leave. After Nala Iyer left, Nagran Vagris ran his hands through his hair. Everyone sized up the vampire in front of them. You are the dead Duke Nagran Varglis? Ruan Faxben asked in a probing manner. Are you surprised? You must have encountered many supernatural creatures, right? Quite a few, but it's my first time with vampires, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan said, but I heard that even vampires don't live more than 200 years, right? It's a matter of power, Nagran said. When I break through some shackles, I have a lifespan that surpasses my peers. Tell me, what do you want from me? Don't tell me that you want to turn into a vampire. Only ordinary people can do it, and the process is very complicated. No, we want to know the contents of the Book of Prometheus, Exenly said eagerly. Exenly said impatiently. You were the one who donated the Book of Prometheus to the British Museum, right? Did you leave a copy? Nagran Varglis looked at Exenly in surprise. Your blood looks delicious. Ruan Faxben looked at Nagran Vagris. Please don't do anything to these children, especially this girl. Trust me, her parents are very fierce. I'm fierce too, Nagran Vagris said with a smile. Her parents only need to call 23rd generation Blood Mary to come and support her. Count Nagran Vagris, are you sure you can handle it? 23rd generation Blood Mary. Nagran Vagris' face twitched, as if recalling an unpleasant memory. Forget it. I can't afford to offend her. Chapter 1870. Nagran Varglis came down from the windowsill and turned to look at them. I have the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus, Nagran Varglis said. Since you have such a powerful background, the price you're offering shouldn't be low, right? Price? Do I still have to pay? Exenly asked, confused. How much do you want? My uncle gave me a credit card with a limit of $100,000. Nagran Varglis rolled his eyes. Ruan Faxben looked at Nagran Varglis. Then what does the Earl want? Her blood, Nagran Varglis said, pointing at Exenly. I'm afraid not. Her uncle will kill me. I just need a little, 1,000 milliliters. It's not much, right? It's okay, just 1,000 milliliters. I agree, Exenly said generously. Normally, 500 milliliters was enough for 2 donations. Exenly didn't think it would be a problem. Where's the rubbing? This girl's blood is only the first condition. There are 2 more. Any other requests? Ruan Faxben frowned. Previously, Exenly had exposed their goal in advance. It caused them to be very passive now. After all, they had a favor to ask. They could only accept Nagran Varglis's request. I want a dragon's tooth and a pure-blood dragon's tooth at that. This. Ruan Faxi's face showed hesitation, but Xian Li exposed herself again. That's it. I thought it was something else. We have plenty of dragon teeth. Xian Li's tone was very arrogant. Nagran Varglis raised an eyebrow. Plenty of dragon teeth? I'm talking about pure-blood dragon teeth. Are you sure you have a lot? Not a lot. Ruan Faxben immediately interrupted Xian. Xian Li was too young. She didn't know how dangerous the world was. But we can still give you one dragon tooth, Ruan Faxben said. Do you have other parts of pure-blood dragons? Nagran Varglis asked. Yes, but you should also know how precious these things are. One dragon tooth is our bottom line. Don't expect us to pay more, Ruan Faxben said forcefully. All right. Nagran Varglis rubbed his chin. The third request is that there is a two-headed ogre hibernating in the West Mountain Forest. I want you to bring the head of this two-headed ogre to me. Earl, I'm an alchemist. I don't have much fighting power. My role is to babysit them. Now, you want me to bring these children to kill a two-headed ogre? Don't you think it's too much? Ruan Faxben looked at Nagran Varglis with righteous indignation. He glared at Nagran Varglis indignantly as if he had suffered a huge grievance. Actually, killing a twin-headed ogre was not completely unacceptable, but Ruan Faxi didn't want to accept it so easily. Moreover, the twin-headed ogre was not easy to kill. Ordinary ogres only had one head. They were just some bloodthirsty, greedy beasts with well-developed limbs and simple brains. However, among the ogres, there were rare, twin-headed ogres. Not only did they possess high intelligence, but they also cultivated both physics and elemental energy. Not only did they have stronger bodies than ordinary ogres, but they also had powerful elemental magic. Coupled with their cunning nature, their fighting power was more than 10 times that of ordinary ogres. Didn't you say that these children have great influence? If you can't do it, you can ask the elders behind them. I believe they can definitely do it. Nagran Varglis looked at Ruan Faxben as if it was a matter of course. They came out to train. If they contact their families because of this, then their training will be a complete failure. I will also be severely punished, so I don't think this is a good choice. That's your problem, Nagran Varglis said mercilessly. Earl, we came with sincerity. If you ask for such a sky-high price, then we can't continue the discussion. Seeing Ruan Faxben's unyielding attitude, Nagran Varglis couldn't help but wonder if his request was too much. However, when Nagran Varglis saw Xian Li's gaze, he suddenly realized that Ruan Faxi was trying to bargain with him. I don't think this request is too much. Earl, if any of these children are hurt, their elders won't just vent their anger on me, Ruan Faxben threatened. Nagran Varglis was instantly unhappy. Ruan Faxben's words were clearly a threat. Do you think I'll be afraid? Do you know how many of my family members are in Edinburgh? Perhaps I'll be afraid in other places. But in my territory no one can threaten me, not even the Scarlet Church or 23rd Blood Mary. Earl, Xian Li's elders can affect not only 23rd Blood Mary, but also Taoist Master Zhang Tianyi of the Eastern Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Master Sect. I believe Mr. Zhang will be very willing to travel to Edinburgh. Nagran Varglis's expression changed slightly. Of course, he knew Zhang Tianyi's name. This name was even more famous than 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi was known as the number one in the spiritual world. He was also different from 23rd Blood Mary. It was said that 23rd Blood Mary was about to reach the end of her life. So Nagran Varglis felt that 23rd Blood Mary would not be a threat as long as he delayed for a while. As for the Scarlet Church, if they really wanted to start an all-out war with him, as long as Edinburgh was the main battlefield, he was not afraid of any force. But Zhang Tianyi was different. He did not even need to come personally. He only needed to wave his hand. Many spiritualists were willing to work for him. The number one in the spiritual world was not just for show. But Nagran Varglis wouldn't give in so easily. His face was still filled with disdain. Say whatever you want. How do I know if you're telling the truth? You might as well say that you can make the Prime Minister trouble me. Earl, since you say so, then forget it. I hope you can still maintain this attitude in the Battle of the Holy Glory. Nagran Varglis raised an eyebrow. This guy knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory? Those who knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory were definitely qualified to participate, and everyone who was qualified could not be underestimated, especially when they could influence the two strongest in the world. Chapter 1871. The Battle of Holy Glory was a feast for those at the top of the spiritual world. It was like the football World Cup. Even Nagran Varglis couldn't refuse this feast. Nagran Varglis was also a frequent participant in the Battle of Holy Glory. But if the people behind them could influence the two strongest people in the world, then Nagran Varglis would be in big trouble, especially when the Battle of Holy Glory arrived. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary met him head-on, he wouldn't even have a place to hide. The spiritual world was a place where strength mattered. It followed the law of the jungle here. The strength of one's strength represented everything. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary wanted to deal with one person at the same time, no one would dare to make a sound. And if these children were really in danger because of his request or even died, then it would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. In any era, killing someone else's junior or descendant would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. Don't talk about a fair deal. No one would accept such an excuse. He would be the same, let alone the others. Then leave. Since you can't make a deal, you don't have to stay here. Xian Li looked at Ruan Faxben anxiously. Riisa shouted, I'm going to kill the two-headed ogre. I'm going. Don't stop me. I can definitely kill the two-headed ogre. Riisa, calm down. The two-headed ogre isn't something we can deal with, Morse said, pulling the noisy Riisa aside. I'm not afraid of the two-headed ogre, Riisa shouted, stomping her feet. I don't care, I have to go. Ruan Faxben's face darkened. He looked at Nagran Varglis. Earl, if anything happens to them, you'll be in big trouble. You're blaming me for not keeping an eye on the children? Of course I won't blame you, Earl, but their elders might not be as reasonable as me. Nagran Varglis was even more annoyed. What do you want? We can agree to the first two conditions, but the third one is big trouble for both of us. Give me another dragon tooth, Nagran Varglis said. Actually, it was useless to have more dragon teeth. But Nagran Varglis would not let Xian Li bleed anymore. After all, 1,000 milliliters of blood would have a certain effect on the human body. If there were any more, if something happened to the girl, that was the real problem. Ruan Faxi thought for a while and finally nodded. Okay. But Nagran Varglis felt like he had been tricked. These are 2 dragon teeth. Where's the rubbing? Ruan Faxaban asked. In the British Museum, Nagran Varglis said with a smile. What, are you messing with me? Of course not. You can have as many copies as you want. The Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum, and the curator of the British Museum is my friend. So if I want to borrow and copy the book, it's just a matter of asking. Nagran Varglis said disapprovingly, The Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum. Do you have equipment to draw blood here? Nagran Varglis bared his fangs. Do you think a vampire needs equipment? Trust me, if you dare bite her, you won't live past tonight. All right, you guys go find the equipment to draw blood. Nagran Varglis did not believe Ruan Faxaban's words, but he did not want to cause trouble. Let's trade tomorrow, Ruan Faxaban said. We'll give you the blood bags and the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus. Do you want these 2 dragon teeth back? No, just take it as a deposit, Ruan Faxaban said. Aren't you afraid I won't pay? If you think the 2 dragon teeth are worth the risk, you can try. Ruan Faxaban left the castle with the 4 children. Faxaban, What did you think of my performance just now? Lisa asked proudly. Not bad, but a bit too much. You're already a teenager, but you acted like a child, Ruan Faxaben said. Ruan Faxburn said, you have such a high IQ. I think you should sign up for an acting class. My performance was so perfect. What's wrong with it? Lisa shouted angrily. Mr. Faxaben, we clearly have a lot of dragon teeth. Why don't we trade directly? And can't we beat a two-headed ogre? Dragon teeth are worthless to us because they were obtained by your uncle. Your uncle has the ability to slay dragons, but others don't. That's why we need to control the number of dragon teeth on the market. If there are too many dragon teeth on the market, then the price will plummet. We'll still be the ones losing out, Ruan Faxaben explained patiently to Exenly. Unlike Moore and Lisa, who are both smart and different from Colin's more complete worldview. Exenly had always lived in her family's residential area. She had some contact with the outside world, but not much. Most of her contact was through television or computers. Therefore, she was still very naive and didn't understand these things at all. As for the two-headed ogre, it's not easy to deal with, Ruan Faxaben said. Even if we're confident, we shouldn't deal with it ourselves. At least we need Nag Randvarglis to offer a higher price. Otherwise, we'll be working for nothing. But we only want the Book of Prometheus. We don't need anything else. The Book of Prometheus is written in ancient Greek. Can you understand it? Or do you think any of us can understand it? Can that vampire count read it? I don't know, but as an old monster who's lived for more than 200 years, he's definitely more knowledgeable than us. He's definitely more likely to understand ancient Greek. Okay, did I almost ruin things just now? Exenly asked. Ruan Faxaben took a deep breath. Exenly had indeed ruined things. If Exenly hadn't interrupted, Ruan Faxaben was confident that he could get the rubbing at a lower price. But he definitely couldn't answer yes directly. If Exenly was traumatized because of this, Chen Zhao would kill him. It's okay. This is why the president asked you to come out. You still have many things to learn. Mr. Faxaben, I promise I won't interrupt again, Exenly said firmly. Chapter 1872. Old John, can I ask you something? I don't have a ticket. I don't want a ticket. Then tell me, do you have an anonymous ticket? Anonymous my ass. The Battle of Holy Glory is such an honorable thing. Every participant wants their name above their head. Why do you want an anonymous ticket? What's in your head? Zhang Tianyi opened his mouth and spat at Chen Zhao, making Chen Zhao bleed. If you don't have one, then don't be so agitated. I'm hanging up. Wait. A few days ago, a mysterious expert appeared in Vietnam and killed that flood dragon. Did you do it? What flood dragon? That's just an eel, okay? Don't you know that scaled primates can turn into dragons? So what? I don't think that eel is that strong. That guy is from the Zhen River. Do you know that after that eel? No, after you killed the flood dragon, the river flooded? Luckily, it's just a tributary of the Mekong River. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If that guy is so important, why didn't anyone stop Blood Mary when she listed it as a red mission? You're too late. That's because I've never thought that anyone could kill it. It has the power of the river. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a water god. In that tributary, it's almost impossible to kill it. It has endless power. Chen Zhao thought about it. The big eel's recovery seemed to be really unusual. It was clearly weaker than Chen Zhao and Tamamo no Mei. However, its regenerative ability was astonishing. Chen Zhao had smashed its head with a punch, and it could still heal. This was more or less an immortal body. So it was because it had the power of a river. That river should be considered as its domain. If not for the Black Trident, Chen Zhao probably couldn't do anything to it. You took its beast core? What beast core? I don't know. Stop bullshitting. We've met a few times. I've long noticed that you have the aura of lightning water. That eel. No, The flood dragon is also lightning water. You must have noticed its beast core, Zhang Tianyi said with certainty. Give me the water beast core. You're going too far. I risked my life to kill that eel, yet you're asking for half of the spoils of war right now. I'm helping you clean up. Zhang Tianyi cursed. That beast core is to create a new river god. Otherwise, that tributary will flood so much land. Do you know how many people will lose their homes? Chen Zhao gritted his teeth. He'd thought that he'd gotten rid of a disaster for the people. Give me another 1,000,000 and donate it to the local victims. I can give it, but I don't have money. I'm accumulating good karma for you. Even if you're not afraid of karma, you should think about your family and children. The debts you owe will affect your family. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. Could Joseph have been punished because of his sins? Okay, I suddenly feel sad when I think of the victims. Is 1,000,000 enough? Should I donate more? Chen Zhao paused. Then he asked, Can accumulating good fortune bring good luck to my family too? Zhang Tianyi was speechless towards this bastard who wouldn't release the eagle without seeing the rabbit. I'll have someone from the North American Embassy contact you. You just need to give it to them. Okay. Oh, do you need a secret code? For example, the Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger, or the pagoda suppresses the river monster. I don't have time to talk to you. I have business to do. Just then, Qin Zhao heard a voice. Thank you for the Manchu Han Imperial Feast. Love you. This disrespectful old thing was watching the live stream of an online streamer again. Old Zhang, I need to put this donation to good use. Give me the receipt. If I find out that the money went to some streamer, I'll go to Dragon Tiger Mountain to ask for it personally. Who do you think I am? I'm doing it with a learning attitude to promote Taoism. You're also doing it with a learning attitude. It's called respecting the content of the show. Since it's learning, of course I have to pay. If you live stream subduing demons, you'll definitely have more than 1,000,000 fans. I want to, but if I dare to do that, I'll be sent to jail tomorrow for spreading futile thoughts. I'm hanging up. Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to continue arguing with Zhang Tianyi. Not long after he hung up the phone, a car entered the territory of the Mingyue Villa. A square-faced man walked up to Qin Zhao. He emitted surging magic power. Hello. You must be the Mr. Chen that my ancestor mentioned. I'm Yanghua. Chen Zhao looked at Yanghua with a, Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not joking. Yanghua looked at Chen Zhao seriously. It was as if he had read Qin Zhao's unspoken words. It was definitely not his first time in such a situation. Can you tell me what you've been through? Because of this name, I hid abroad, Yanghua said gloomily. I thought that if I could interact with foreigners, I wouldn't have the troubles in China. Chen Zhao suddenly felt a gaze from the sky. Looking up, he saw a huge eagle circling in the sky. Yours? My ancestor gave it to me. He said that this eagle matches my name. Helplessness was also written all over Yang's face. Before I left, my ancestor said that I was still lacking and almost cut off my right arm. He didn't give you another wife. Why do you think he didn't give me one? You're also called Little Dragon Maiden. Dragon, Yanghua said. Take this and this check. Qin Zhao gave Yanghua the water elemental internal alchemy and a $2 million check. Come visit me when you're free. Oh, you're welcome to come too. Chen Zhao really wanted to see if the legendary Little Dragon Maiden was also devastatingly beautiful. Yanghua looked away. He'd already seen through Qin Zhao's dirty thoughts. She's in China. Don't even think about it. I still have things to do, so I won't keep you. Hearing that he wouldn't have a chance to see Little Dragon Maiden, Chen Zhao instantly lost interest. He didn't even want to deal with Yanghua anymore. He directly asked him to leave. Yanghua glanced at the dragon head in the yard. Mr. Qin, you're really daring to put a dragon head in front of your house. You're not Chinese if you're afraid of death. The giant dragon race is famous for seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. I can only say that I respect you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Chen Zhao glanced at the dragon head in the yard. Should I put it away? Forget it. If I put it away now, I'll look cowardly. Anyway, if the giant dragon race really dared to come, he would just have to slay them again. Chapter 1873. Chen Zhao went to HQ. In Mayev's treatment room, Jig sat beside him looking haggard. He stared at the sleeping Mayev in the container with lifeless eyes. Seeing Chen Zhao come in, Jiggs immediately stood up. Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao nodded and walked to the container. Mayev's injuries were very serious. She could even be said to be the most seriously injured patient Chen Zhao had ever seen in his career. No one else, even with normal treatment methods. Even Chen Zhao couldn't do anything about it. When Chen Zhao had brought her back to HQ, he'd basically picked up a corpse. If she'd been sent to the hospital, she probably wouldn't even have made it to the hospital. Mr. Chen, how's Mayev? Not really good, but at least she's stabilized, Chen Zhao said. Actually, Mayev's biggest problem was still psychological. However, this had nothing to do with Chen Zhao. After Chen Zhao healed her, Jiggs would be responsible for her psychological trauma. Chen Zhao started draining the liquid in the container. Then he took over the container and filled it with new water. Mayev had already absorbed all the essence in the container. He had to pour in new perfect demonic crystals. Jiggs couldn't help either. He could only worry on the side. Chen Zhao saw that Jiggs would be very uneasy if he didn't do anything. Come and reconnect these devices, Chen Zhao said. Jiggs immediately came to help after receiving the order. After changing the water, Chen Zhao said to Jiggs, "Go rest. I think you're in a bad state." Chen Zhao looked at the container before him and the complicated devices around it. Could these instruments and the container itself be combined, instead of being put together in such a crude way as they were now? Just the messy wires were enough to make Chen Zhao very uncomfortable. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't understand machinery and technology. He needed to ask Jolig. He told Jolig his request and thoughts. As for whether Jolig could satisfy his needs, Chen Zhao wasn't sure. Mr. Chen, how long will Mayev need to be healed? At least a month, Chen Zhao said. How much can she heal? Her external injuries will be completely healed, Chen Zhao said. Can I really? The real problem is her psychological trauma, Chen Zhao said. You can only rely on yourself. I can't help. Jiggs nodded in understanding. You really should go and rest. Otherwise, it's very likely that she'll cure you, but you'll collapse. I will. Although Jiggs said so, he had no intention of resting. Chen Zhao didn't force it. No matter what, it was his own business. Chen Zhao walked out and turned left. He found Jolig's warehouse. Jolig's lab was as messy as Ruan Faxbin's. Everything had been thrown away haphazardly. The amazing thing was that they always knew where the thing they were looking for was. But once someone was kind enough to help them clean up, they would go crazy and they wouldn't be able to find anything. At this moment, Jolig was wearing a pair of sunglasses as he welded. He seemed to be doing some mechanical design again. Chen Zhao's arrival didn't stop Jolig's work until Jolig's welding was complete. Only then did Chen Zhao speak. Jolig. Ah, President, when did you arrive? I just arrived. What are you doing? Giselle's new equipment, Jolig said. When do you have time to help me make an instrument? Chen Zhao told him his idea. Can it be done? It's not hard. Actually, I just need to integrate those instruments and install them on the container. Then I'll do some cosmetic changes to avoid some safety issues. What Chen Zhao was worried about were the technical problems. Actually, there weren't any technical problems at all. Chen Zhao's request was simple. It was a combination, not an innovation. But he wasn't in a hurry to use it for now. Chen Zhao wanted to prepare some medical equipment for emergencies. After all, the spiritual world was a high-risk job. Chen Zhao stayed in the headquarters for 2 hours. Everyone was preparing for the next African trip. Chen Zhao would be a hindrance if he stayed. So, He left the headquarters early. I wonder how Raymond is doing. Chen Zhao checked the time. There were still 3 hours until Feilai got off work. While he still had time, he went to Stephen's forest. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he saw 2 bicycles by the road. Weird. Why are there 2 bicycles here? Confused, Qin Zhao walked up the mountain. When he reached the top, he heard cries for help. Help! Help! Qin Zhao looked in the direction of the sound. 2 kilometers away, there were 2 kids hugging a big tree. They kept shouting and waving their hands, hoping to attract Qin Zhao's attention. But Qin Zhao pretended not to hear or see them. Of course, normal people couldn't see or hear them from such a distance. 3 or 4 crocodiles were sunbathing under the tree. The 2 kids weren't in danger anyway. Qin Zhao wasn't in a hurry to save them. Reinen, it's useless. That man can't hear us. Jess, what do we do? I don't want to die here. Ever since the last time, Jess and Reinen had been hoping to get a picture of the monster. Then they snuck here and hid in the tree with enough equipment and food. They planned to fight a long battle here. They thought that the monster should be amphibious and wouldn't climb trees. But soon after they climbed up, a group of crocodiles came. The crocodiles didn't notice them. Instead, it was because there was plenty of sunlight here. They were sunbathing under the tree. This lasted for 2 days. The crocodiles didn't leave completely. After one left, another group came. This also caused the 2 of them to be trapped on the tree. This caused the 2 of them to be trapped in the tree for 2 days. They ate, drank, and pooped on the tree. They couldn't sleep at all. They were afraid that they would fall down if they fell asleep. At first, they hoped that Frank would come again. But after 2 days, Frank still didn't come. There was no signal here at all. Their phones were all out of battery in 2 days. This made them sink into despair. Just then, the person came. But the tree they were hiding in was a bit off the road. As a result, the person didn't hear their cries at all. They didn't know that Chen Zhao did it on purpose. Qin Zhao didn't know who the 2 kids were. If they didn't have anything to do with Stephen, he would call the police after they went down the mountain. 9 Heavens, Divine Emperor. Chapter 1874. Qin Zhao's small world spread out. It covered more than half of the lake. There were clearly fewer crocodiles here. There were probably less than 1/10 of the entire lake now. However, the fewer they were, the harder it was to clear them out. Qin Zhao looked at the lake. Then he took off his clothes and dove into the water. Reinen and Jess cried out again on the treetops in the distance. There were water monsters and crocodiles in the water. Going into the water was suicide, but the man clearly couldn't hear them. He still dove into the water. Soon, Chen Zhao sank into the water. He didn't come up again. It was obvious that the man must have been killed. He was either eaten by a water monster or drowned by a crocodile. Chen Zhao had indeed been bitten by a crocodile. Qin Zhao dove into the water and pinched the crocodile that bit him to death. Just then, Raymond sensed Chen Zhao's arrival and swam over. "Master, let's work harder and kill all these bugs," Raymond complained. "These crocodiles are too disgusting. That asterisk shoal. Frank hasn't come for the past 2 days. If I see him again, I'll eat him." "Fine." Chen Zhao opened up the small world completely. Everything inside was within his perception. Then he started hunting the crocodiles. With Raymond and Chen Zhao working together, the hunting speed was even faster. As long as the small world enveloped them, the crocodiles had nowhere to hide. Chen Zhao and Raymond could accurately track the crocodiles' movements. They didn't even let the baby crocodiles go. Chen Zhao also destroyed their eggs. After 30 minutes, they finally cleared all the crocodiles. "Raymond, I'll come pick you up at night." "Okay." It wasn't convenient to move during the day. Reinen and Jess, in the distant tree, suddenly saw the man who had disappeared from the lake for half an hour float to the surface of the water again. How is that possible? How is he still alive? Did he dive for a long distance and we didn't notice him? Impossible. We can see a large area from here. If he came up from somewhere else, he can't escape our sight. But that's the truth. A normal person can't stay underwater for more than 30 minutes without breathing. But there are water monsters and crocodiles in the water. Didn't they attack his mom? Rhiannon asked, confused. Maybe it's because his luck is better. Hey, he's coming in our direction. Oh no, look below us. Just then, the two crocodiles under the tree climbed into the water. They had obviously discovered their prey. Don't come over. Don't come over. Crocodile, there are crocodiles in the water. Suddenly, the man dived into the water again. Not long after, a patch of red rose from the water. It's over. That man is dead for sure. After killing the crocodile in the water, Chen Zhao used a rock to press the carcass to the bottom of the lake. If it floated up, it would be very disgusting if it was left to rot without any treatment. If they were left at the bottom of the lake, they would be digested by the biological system in the lake. They would truly return to nature. While Jared and Jess were in a mess, Qin Zhao had logged back in. When Jess and Rhiannon saw Qin Zhao, their faces were filled with astonishment. How could this guy still be alive? That's impossible, right? Where are the two crocodiles? Just then, the two crocodiles under the tree charged at him. Crocodile, the crocodile is coming towards you. At such a close distance, Chen Zhao could no longer pretend not to hear. On land, crocodiles weren't as slow as people thought. In fact, crocodiles had very strong sprinting abilities and speed. On land, they also had very fast short-distance, explosive power. One crocodile charged at Chen Zhao first. Chen Zhao jumped lightly and grabbed the crocodile's tail. Then he threw it over his shoulder and smashed it onto the other crocodile. Both crocodiles were taken care of in one move. The two kids on the tree were dumbfounded. So simple? It ended just like that? Chen Zhao looked up at Jared and Jess on the tree. Are you two playing hide and seek? Chen Zhao pouted. Fine, I won't disturb you anymore. You guys continue. With that, Chen Zhao turned and left. After taking his clothes, he went down the mountain directly. Jared and Jess hurried down the tree, but when they reached the ground, Chen Zhao had already left. That man is so strong, Jared whispered. Let's leave quickly. It's too dangerous here. Stephen, I just went to your lake. Aren't you being too irresponsible? I gave Raymond to you, but you let him starve. Raymond told me that you haven't given him food for 2 days. Ah, sorry, it's my fault. Frank got into an accident 2 days ago. I forgot about it. Accident? What happened to him? He got into a car accident and broke his leg. He's recovering in the hospital. He can't get out of bed for at least half a month. Oh, will there be any side effects? If he's well, probably not, Stephen said helplessly. I'll have Fantas bring food to Raymond now. No need. I just cleaned up all the crocodiles for you. Later, have Fantas bring Raymond to my house. You're done? I confirmed it myself. It's very clean. Chen Zhao didn't plan on blaming Stephen. After all, there was a reason. Stephen didn't do it on purpose. Oh, 2 high school students were trapped at the lake just now. Luckily I came, or they'd be food for the crocodiles. High school students? Frank told me before that he saw a few kids going up the mountain. He even made up a story about monsters. I was going to have him put up a sign at the foot of the mountain, but he got into a car accident and forgot about it. Oh, was Frank's car accident an accident? Probably. It's better to be careful. Some criminals will target the bodyguards first when they target rich people. That's true. What should I do? How about you bring Raymond to your house for a few days? Chun Zhao asked. As for traveling, tell Fantas not to leave your side. How about don't even think about moving to my house? You're not welcome there. Do you have to be so stingy? Why are you so petty? We are brothers. Fuck you. I don't have a brother as big as you. Also, Did you forget that you took tens of millions of dollars worth of wine from my house last time? I left a note. You even gave the note to little Larissa and made her put it in her mouth. That's your fault. You didn't teach little Larissa well. Chapter 1875. Here's 1,000 milliliters of Exan Lee's blood. Ruan Faxben threw a blood bag to Nagrand Vagris. Nagrand Vagris held the blood bag and took a deep breath, even though it was separated by the material. Even though it was through the material, Nagrand Vagris seemed to be able to smell the blood inside. He took an intoxicated breath and then put the blood bag away in satisfaction. That's right, it's the girl's blood. Then what about the thing we want? Nagrand Vagris took out a rubbing from the safe. But this rubbing was not printed with a printer like everyone imagined. It was printed in a very ancient way, and there were only a few pieces of paper. How did this happen? Ruan Faxben frowned and looked at the coarse paper in his hand. There was still ink on it. Many of the contents were very vague. In this era, even spiritualists wouldn't use such a primitive method of copying. In Ruan Faxben's opinion, Nagrand Vagris was deliberately making things difficult for them. The Book of Prometheus is a few big stones. I can't hold a few stones and put them on the printer to print, right? I can only use ink to make a rubbing. Stones! Of course. Don't you know? The original version of the Book of Prometheus is a few heavy stones. But we've been to the British Museum. The exhibits, they're not stones at all. That's fake, Nagrand Vagris said calmly. The real Book of Prometheus is just a few stones. I have no reason to lie to you. Fine. Ruan Faxben did not want to argue anymore. He looked at Nagrand Vagris and said, Count, do you know ancient Greek? It's very expensive for me to translate, and I don't like to be threatened. This time, Nagrand Vagris said the ugly part first. After all, he had been threatened a few days ago, so he had to back down. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary were too famous and illustrious. Even if he could not guarantee that they were related to these two, Nagrand Vagris did not want to be enemies with them. But he was unwilling. After all, he was not a charity. He was not related to them and always used them to threaten him. No matter who the other party was, it was unbearable. So Nagrand Vagris made up his mind not to back down. Tell me your conditions, Sir Count. I still have the same request. Help me kill the twin-headed ogre. Just then, Ruan took out a small bottle. After opening the bottle, he flipped it over. 2 small balls rolled out from inside. Ruan Faxben sprinkled some magic powder on the ball. In an instant, the 2 balls turned into 2 huge heads. These 2 heads were several times the size of an ordinary person. The bloody head rolled to the ground. Nagrand Vagris raised an eyebrow and went forward to check. It really was that hateful twin-headed ogre. They actually killed the twin-headed ogre? Nagrand Vagris looked at Ruan Faxben in bewilderment. Did he do it? Or was it the power behind them? Nagrand Vagris had been fighting this 2-headed ogre for more than 100 years. Neither side could do anything to the other. But in this case, Nagrand Vagris had suffered a huge loss. Because in the past 100 years, he had lost hundreds of subordinates or family members. And almost all of them had become food for the twin-headed ogre. This twin-headed ogre was different from ordinary ogres. He would directly attack anyone he saw. This twin-headed ogre understood the rules of humans and would not attack ordinary people at all. Even if he ran out of food, he would at most attack the cows and sheep in the nearby farms. So even though the government knew of the existence of this twin-headed ogre, they ignored him. They were even happy to see Nagrand Vagris and this twin-headed ogre fight each other. Of course, Nagrand Vagris knew the sinister intentions of the government. But he had no other choice. This twin-headed ogre was not only powerful, but he also never left the mountains. In the past, he had led teams into the mountains to surround him. Most of them fell into his traps and died. Nagrand Vagris's strength was only on par with this twin-headed ogre. Neither had the strength to kill the other. This made Nagran Vagris think of relying on outsiders to eliminate the twin-headed ogre. Of course, even if he made a request to Ruan Faxben and the others, he did not think that Ruan Faxben and the others could solve it. From his point of view, it would be best if he could attract the people behind them to make a move. But he did not expect that Ruan Faxben would directly throw this cunning twin-headed ogre's head in front of him. Nagran Vagris thought again. If it was the people behind them, they had entered Edinburgh's territory without him noticing. This meant that the other party's strength was not to be underestimated. After all, Edinburgh was his territory. However, the other party was able to come and disappear without a trace. If they could kill this twin-headed ogre without a sound, then they most likely had the ability to kill him too. This made Nagran Vagris wary of Ruan Faxben and the others. We have fulfilled your request. Now, it's time for you to carry out your duty. Ruan Faxben smiled at Nagran Vagris. These two heads should be enough to intimidate the other party. You need to wait here for a while, Nagran Vagris said. I need time to translate. This book of Prometheus was yours in the past. Have you not translated it at all? Do you know what the literacy rate was in ancient Greece? Does your question have anything to do with your translation of the book of Prometheus? It's 1%. In that era, ancient Greece had a population of millions, but only a few thousand people could read. Most of them were spiritualists, and only a few were nobles. Nagran Vagris said, and those nobles only knew the simplified version of the ancient Greek language. I still don't understand. Ancient Greek characters contain a mysterious power. This mysterious power cannot be translated and can only be identified through specific magic. In the past, when I had the Book of Prometheus, I only translated the simplified version. Only after I had a breakthrough in my strength did I realize that I had neglected the true content of the Book of Prometheus. How long will that take? I'm not sure. Nagran Vagris said, identifying the mysterious Greek language requires a huge amount of magic. Chapter 1876. Does that mean I can translate the Book of Prometheus as long as I master this recognition spell? Of course, it's not that simple. You also have to master ancient Greek. Recognition spells and ancient Greek are both necessary. Then give me a specific time. It's a long process, Nagran Vagris said slowly. I can't rush it. But we won't be in England for long. I can't do anything about that. How about this? I'll inform my superior and ask him to invite you to our place to translate. Trust me, we can provide you with a stable and quiet environment. You can translate there without worry. Nagran Vagris's face darkened. Ruan Facilis was using this again. But this time, Nagran Vagris was helpless too. After all, he had received their payment. It was useless even if he wanted to go back on his word. Ruan Facilis had clearly predicted that Nagran Vagris would bring up the past again. He didn't give him a chance to go back on his word. This translation is really complicated. There's no room for mistakes. 7 days at most. If you can't finish in 7 days, I can only call my superior. You're making things difficult for me. But you're making things difficult for me too. Ruan Facilis had a smile on his face. He knew people like Nagran Vagris very well. If he didn't force him, if he wasn't forceful, he would be the one to take the initiative. Ruan Facilis knew very well that they wouldn't get Chen Zhao's support for this risky operation. Chen Zhao hoped that they would run into trouble halfway and then return dejectedly. But Ruan Facilis and Lisa would definitely be punished by Chen Zhao. After all, they were the ones who started this. The only thing they could do now was to borrow Chen Zhao's power. They could only threaten Nagran Vagris with groundless threats. Nevertheless, Ruan Facilis wasn't afraid that Nagran Vagris would really ask for proof. After all, Blood Mary of Windao, 23, and Zhang Tianyi of Dragon Tiger Mountain wouldn't be exposed. They definitely wouldn't give themselves away. Plus, Ruan Facilis was very confident. Nagran Vagris didn't dare to really ask for proof. I can return one dragon tooth to you. Hand over the money, hand over the goods. There's no reason to return the commission you've paid. Ruan Faxi was a veteran. How could he let Nagran Vagris go back on his word? If Nagran Vagris really dared to break the rules, Ruan Faxi would really call Qinzhao and kill this old monster, even if it meant destroying everything. A week is too short, Nagran Vagris said. It wasn't that he didn't have a way. He just didn't want to pay such a huge price. Use recognition spell to identify the ancient Greek characters in the Book of Prometheus. It required too much mana. If Nagran Vagris really translated all the content in a week, he wouldn't be able to do it. In that case, he would become a cripple. If the other party offered a high enough price, he could even stay in bed for half a year. However, the price that the other party had offered was merely to meet his standards. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to earn much. Why don't you let me bite this girl, and I promise to translate it for you in a week? Count, I don't like to joke around. I don't like to joke around either. The price you're offering isn't enough. What else do you want? Nothing. A month, Nagran Vagris said. It can't be shortened. 10 days, at most 10 days. Ruan Faxi only took a small step back. In the end, the two bargained for a while and agreed on 15 days. Nagran Vagris might be a noble, but he was very low-key most of the time. After all, to humans, he was an anomaly. He tried not to fight if he could. He also didn't want to have a grudge with others, especially when the other party's identity was unknown and he was very powerful. Ruan Faxi didn't want to force him too much either. After all, he was just using his connections to intimidate others. Thus, both sides took a small step back. After Ruan Faxpen left with his men, Nagran Vagris looked at the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus and immediately felt a headache coming on. Translating the Book of Prometheus was also a big problem. The ancient Greek characters were divided into simplified version and mysterious version. In ancient Greece, most nobles only learned the simplified version. The mysterious version required one to learn the simplified version and be proficient in special recognition spells. Then they could be translated with recognition spells. Before Nagran Vagris donated the original version of the Book of Prometheus, he had translated it once. But at that time he wasn't strong enough and didn't have recognition spells. Therefore, what he translated was only a simplified version. Later on, he inadvertently mastered a special identification spell. It was only when he saw the original Book of Prometheus in the British Museum that he realized that he had missed out on something. But to activate the recognition spell, it required a huge amount of magic power. Nagran Vagris didn't think of translating it again. After all, it was a thankless task. But this time, he could only brace himself to translate. Phantus sent Raymond to Stephen's villa. Evan immediately dodged Raymond. He had seen Raymond before, but at that time, Raymond was just a small snake. Now, Raymond was more than 10 times his size. Even though the smell was similar, Evan still didn't dare to approach Raymond. Stephen came out to greet Raymond in his big pants. Raymond dashed out of the container. Stephen and Raymond greeted each other. Raymond, I'm sorry for starving you for 2 days. Raymond curled up into a ball and ignored Stephen, sunbathing by the pool. Judging from Raymond's appearance, he was clearly holding a grudge against him. Stephen changed the topic awkwardly. Phantus, go get Raymond some food. Stephen also wanted a pet like Raymond. Not only was he smart, but he was also unique. Stephen sat beside Raymond. Raymond's cold body made him feel very comfortable. Raymond's body was also very soft. It wasn't as hard as leaning against a rock. Phomutus also brought Evan here every day. Stephen also liked to rest against Evan's body. But different from Raymond's body, Evan's body temperature was quite high. It wasn't suitable for him to lean on for too long. Especially in LA in October, the weather was rather dry and warm. In winter, there was basically heating indoors. Stephen had a lot of trust in Ewen after interacting with her for so long. Of course, Evan was just a regular jaguar. He was still very different from the pets at home. Chapter 1877. Chen Zhao's family gathered together for dinner. Only Xan Li's seat was empty, but they still turned on the video call so that Xan Li could watch them eat. Xan Li, how's your progress? Not bad. We found the original owner of the Book of Prometheus, but because the book is in ancient Greek, we're waiting for the translation. Ancient Greek? I know someone who knows ancient Greek. Do you need me to contact her? Chen Zhao remembered that the 23rd blood Mary knew ancient Greek. If Xan Li needed it, he could help her contact her. No need. I want to find the golden apple step by step. Xan Li bit the apple in her hand. Is this your dinner? Chen Zhao asked. Is there a limit on that credit card? Do you need me to increase it? This is supper. Xan Li looked at the sumptuous dinner in the video and gulped. Uncle, you're tempting me to eat supper. It's okay. It's good to be able to eat, especially for a kid your age. Plus, if you get fat, I can personally arrange a weight loss plan for you. Sister Xan Li, do you have good food at your place? Jerlin asked. Xan Li's cheeks twitched. The worst thing about England was the climate and food. Edinburgh wasn't too bad. When they stayed in London, their jackets had to be waterproof. If it was a cotton coat, they would be a few kilograms heavier. As for English food, she just had sandwiches, burgers, fries, roast meat, and some vegetable salad every day. She'd even fantasized about trying world-famous food and looking up at the starry sky. But it was definitely not a beautiful experience of eating delicious food. Sister Xan Li, when are you coming back? Remember to bring good food for Jerlin. Jerlin looked at Xan Li in the video with big, watery eyes. Me too, me too. Little Larissa also shouted. She was still in Feilai's arms, but she was the most passionate about food. Little Larissa had learned many new words recently. She had learned a few common words. She had to admit that Larissa's talent in languages was better than Jerlin's. However, Jerlin's talent in swimming was much better than Larissa's. Did anyone bully you? No, Uncle. Don't think the outside world is so dark. We haven't fought a single battle yet. Is it true? Chen Zhao asked casually, but Chen Zhao's tone gave Xan Li a lot of pressure. After all, Xan Li didn't know if Ruan and the others would report it to Chen Zhao. Actually, there was a battle, but I didn't do anything. That battle was to find and kill the twin-headed ogre. Riisa was the only one who made a move, so she didn't have the chance to intervene. Big sister Xan Li, Dad brought back a lot of eels a few days ago. They're very delicious. You have to come back soon, or else there won't be any left to eat. Little Galin said very seriously. Xan Li remembered that when Chen Zhao brought Didi around the world and arrived in Edinburgh, Didi had told her that the water monster they'd encountered in Vietnam's Mekong River was a super large eel. Xan Li, give me your address. I'll mail you some cooked eel meat. Uncle, it's okay. Apart from the taste, the eel meat can also increase your magic slightly. Okay. At night, Chen Zhao rose into the sky again for a day of cultivation. But before long, Chen Zhao was harassed by the American Air Force again. The Americans seemed to have figured out how to find Chen Zhao. Recently, he had been discovered by the American Air Force about 1/3 of the time. As a result, Chen Zhao never flew into the sky at his house. He would often run a distance away. Moreover, he would be in a different location every time. In order to prevent the Americans from figuring out his location through his movements, Chen Zhao didn't plan his activity area at all. Every day, he cultivated in a random location. But being harassed during cultivation wasn't a pleasant experience. Hey, old Zhang, why are you calling me at this time? It should be afternoon in China. Am I disturbing you? No, I'm just curious why you're calling me at this time. Don't you sleep at night? Remember the divine hit you taught me last time? I'm in trouble. What trouble? Going crazy? You won't go crazy with a divine hit, right? No. It's just that every time I use it, I'll be discovered by the American military satellites. Then they'll chase after me. Then what do you want to do? Shouldn't you provide after-sales service? I have a way, but I can't move. If I do, I'll be exposed. What way? Are you coming to the battle of Holy Glory? That's boring. Cut the crap. Are you coming or not? Let me think about it. I have a lot of business. My business isn't business. Yes, you have business too. But I'm really not interested. I'm asking your subordinates to participate, not you. I won't let you participate, even if you want to. Then I'll choose a few people. One organization can choose 10 people, Zhang Tianyi said. Okay. Chen Zhao planned to just find a few random people to deal with them. Oh, the Mekong River's flood is under control. Your money has been donated to the disaster area, Zhang Tianyi said. You can create a water god so quickly. Chen Zhao asked curiously. The main thing is to find a powerful monster and give it to him. At the very least, it will be able to replace the original flood dragon in a short period of time. However, it will probably take a few years for it to completely absorb the inner core. Are there a lot of these mountain, water, and earth gods in China? Not many, and there aren't any mountain or earth gods. Only water gods, Zhang Tianyi said. The big rivers in China all have water gods, but they're all managed by monster organizations. Monster organizations? The only officially recognized organization is the Monster Alliance. There are also some smaller monster organizations, but you're not in China anymore. Do you plan on coming back to develop? Forget it, Qin Zhao said. With my power, I can be a monkey king in North America. If I go back to China, I might be taken care of by some old monster that pops out of nowhere. But can monsters coexist peacefully with humans? I'm curious. Why not? Didn't you also have a demon blade as your subordinate? Chapter 1878. That's right. Qin Zhao smiled. His way of thinking was a bit extreme. Since he could raise a bunch of demons, why couldn't other people live peacefully with them? Plus, he'd accepted the demon blade service. After interacting with the blade, Qin Zhao understood. Be it demons or demons, they all had their own feelings and thoughts. They weren't cold-killing machines. Their personalities were largely determined by their living or growing environment. How do I hide my aura? This is a method I developed myself. I call it heaven and man coexistence. It's to use a small world to hide your aura. Even when you're not moving, you can make your small world completely blend with the surroundings. Even the naked eye will have a visual deviation. How do I do it exactly? Qin Zhao asked. Have you tried to make your small world exchange spiritual qi with the outside world at an extremely fast speed? No. You can give it a try. Not everyone who has reached our realm can use this method because increasing the speed of the exchange of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth means that the pressure on the body will be greater. I've cultivated the spirit bash, so my body is stronger than ordinary spiritualists. You're an enhancer, so you'll definitely be able to do it. However, that old witch, Blood Mary, can't do it. Back then, I taught her step by step, but she couldn't learn it. Zhang Tianyi paused, then added, It's like dropping a drop of oil into a basin of water. The oil will be very obvious in the basin, but if the whole basin of water is continuously stirred, then the oil will disappear from the field of vision. This is a visual deviation caused by physics. For military satellites, which can detect high-energy reactions, it's also effective. Because the huge flow of spiritual energy of heaven and earth has disturbed an area, the military satellites can't detect you. That was the theory, but it wasn't easy to do. Qin Zhao found a region and tried this method. He started to speed up the exchange of spiritual qi. At first, he didn't dare to speed up too much, but he realized that it was just as Zhang Tianyi said. Qin Zhao didn't feel too much pressure. Then he doubled the speed of the exchange of spiritual qi. he still didn't feel uncomfortable. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Chen Zhao didn't feel uncomfortable until he was more than 10 times faster. Old Zhang, how many times can you speed up? I can probably accelerate to about 5 times, Old Zhang said. Chen Zhao calculated in his mind. His strong body was indeed more advantageous. It was about 15 times the normal speed. Chen Zhao only felt a little uncomfortable. He didn't need to experience extreme speed, because Old Zhang's 5 times speed was enough. His energy was definitely higher than Old Zhang's, but his speed was still enough. Chen Zhao was hiding in the sky. At the moment, he was almost completely invisible. Of course, his invisibility wasn't complete. Actually, it was still visible to the naked eye. If the military satellites overhead happened to be watching him, he would still be discovered. But this possibility was even lower than the possibility of winning the lottery. How big is the Earth? Even if Chen Zhao waited for 100 years and gave the Americans a rough location, their military satellites might not be able to find him. Plus, Chen Zhao couldn't just stand there and wait. Even if there was a small probability that it would be discovered by the American military satellites. Chen Zhao could also change places, so Zhang Tiany's method basically solved Chen Zhao's problem. Oh, Chen Zhao, you have an alchemist under you, right? You can ask your subordinate to make a magic tool that can hide your aura. When you face a strong opponent, you need to unleash your full power, but your aura might expose your true strength and make the opponent wary. If you have this magic tool, even if you unleash your full power, your true strength won't be exposed. Then the opponent will be numb. Have you used this before? Chen Zhao asked. I used it a long time ago, but after I broke through to Shangqing, I didn't have the chance anymore. Almost everyone in the spiritual world knows me. I don't even need to unleash my full power. My enemy will be on guard. Zhang Tiany's tone was filled with disappointment. I don't know if my subordinate knows how to make it. It's not difficult, but the process is a bit complicated. If your subordinate says he doesn't know, he's definitely just brushing you off. You can teach him a lesson. Chen Zhao thought about it. With Ruan Faxi's personality, he would probably brush him off like Zhang Tiany said. After a night, Chen Zhao learned heaven and man coexistence. After that, he wasn't harassed by the American Air Force anymore. It seemed like this move was really good. But Chen Zhao also discovered a problem. When he used this move, it would cause the air to flow violently. It was like a super typhoon. Heaven and man coexistence couldn't be used at home. Of course, it could also be used as a wind elemental attack spell. But for people like Chen Zhao and Zhang Tiany, this attack spell was really useless. With their strength, this move was useless against enemies weaker than them or enemies of the same level as them. It was impossible to defeat a powerful enemy with just a storm. Of course, heaven and man coexistence's effect was the same as wind elemental magic. It actually had nothing to do with it. In fact, this storm was just a byproduct of heaven and man coexistence. Chen Zhao's current 1,000-meter small world could almost create a small super typhoon. It sounded powerful and could affect the weather in a small area. But in reality, this move was also useless against normal people. Chen Zhao's abilities weren't used to create disasters for normal people. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Since Zhang Tiany could develop a use for the small world, there might be other uses for it. Maybe he could develop other uses for it too. But just then the sun rose. Chen Zhao put away God's strike and quickly descended. Because of the difference in altitude, he could see the sun in the sky, but it was still night down below. Because of the difference in altitude, he could see the sun in the sky, but it was still night down below. Using the remaining time, Chen Zhao moved around in the ocean for another hour. Only then did the sun rise. When Chen Zhao returned home, the underlings were already preparing breakfast. Seeing that Chen Zhao had returned, he immediately brought some prepared food to Chen Zhao. Chapter 1879. A while later, the family woke up one after another. Early in the morning, Portia came over. Portia, you're really early today. Chun Zhao glanced at Portia, who had rushed over. You didn't eat breakfast, right? Come and eat with us. Portia didn't stand on ceremony. She sat down and started eating. It wasn't her first time anyway. I don't think I told you to come so early yesterday. I'm here for breakfast. Everyone stared at Portia, speechlessly. Portia was very calm. During the last interview, I maxed out my credit card to prepare the clothes for the interview. You don't have money on you? I only have enough money for gas, Portia said calmly. Do you want me to lend you some? Chun Zhao asked. No need. I plan to eat and drink at your place. I don't have any other expenses. Portia was determined not to borrow money from Chun Zhao. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to pay back the money she owed. To be honest, the cost of living in Los Angeles was really high. Portia decided to grit her teeth and persevere. What about your water, electricity, and insurance? The water and electricity stopped a long time ago, Portia said. Unlike in China, even if one owed water and electricity, it could usually last for a few months. The water company and electricity bureau wouldn't necessarily cut off the water and electricity. In America, if you owed water and electricity for a month, the electricity company and water company would make you go back to primitive society. Chun Zhao couldn't imagine that kind of life. However, he wouldn't pity Portia. To put it bluntly, Portia was reaping what she had sown. It was obvious just by looking at her crazy spending when she was in Japan. Moreover, it wasn't the first time Portia maxed out her credit card for an audition. Chun Zhao never approved of pursuing dreams without caring about anything. To him, the prerequisite for pursuing dreams was to support oneself first. Portia, are you sure you don't want me to lend you money? Boss, you sound like a demon. I won't lend you money again. Chun Zhao didn't borrow money for free. He had to pay interest. Portia's monthly interest on the money she owed him was $700 to $800. Of course, it was even scarier if the bank debt was included. Although Chun Zhao gave Portia a high weekly salary, Portia's salary was very high. However, with Portia's extravagant spending habits, she still couldn't make ends meet. In fact, with Portia's salary, she would be considered a high-income person in any country or region in the world. However, Portia still lived her life as a member of the Moonlight Clan. However, this was also the consumption concept of most Americans. Spend in advance, enjoy in advance. The price was a huge debt. Of course, Portia's spending couldn't compare to Chun Zhao's. But no matter what he spent, it was all in cash. Chun Zhao had a credit card, but he basically paid it on time. All of Chun Zhao's expenses were within the amount of his bank account. Of course, Chun Zhao would not criticize Portia, because they had different ideas. Therefore, there was no right or wrong. It was the consumption concept that was nurtured by the environment of the two countries. Portia, help me make an appointment with Felwood Cisco. Ask him to come to Mingyue Villa. Okay. Portia hurriedly wiped her mouth and stood up to call Felwood Cisco, but there was no response. After a while, Portia looked at Chun Zhao awkwardly. Boss, can you lend me $20? I owe my phone bill. Chun Zhao was speechless. He took out $100 in cash. Boss, I want to charge my phone bill. How do I top up if you give me cash? Never mind. Chun Zhao helped Portia top up her phone bill with $100. Hello, Mr. Felwood. I'm Portia, Mr. Chen's assistant. Hello, Ms. Portia. How can I help you? Mr. Chen asked you to come to Mingyue Villa today. Are you free? I'm free, of course I'm free. Felwood accepted without any hesitation. He did not care why Chun Zhao wanted to see him. Even if Chun Zhao wanted to chat with him, Felwood would come. Felwood came very quickly. Chun Zhao had not even eaten the table yet. Felwood, you haven't eaten breakfast yet, right? Come and eat with us. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Felwood had worked with Chun Zhao many times, so they were rather familiar. At the table, Felwood Cisco asked, Mr. Chen, may I know why you called me here? I have a friend who wants your company to build a new house for him. It's my honor. Felwood was very happy. Chen Zhao didn't just ask him to build his house. He even introduced his friend to him. This was a very valuable resource for him to build connections with. He'll be here soon. Wait a moment. Okay, I'm not in a hurry. Felwood nodded. Wait here for a moment. If you need anything, tell Portia. I need to do some morning exercise. Of course. Please help yourself. Felwood Cisco was no stranger to this place. After all, he'd built the house. Felwood came to the front yard and saw Chen Zhao swimming in the sea. The children, on the other hand, were playing without any worries. This was the life of a rich person. Mr. Felwood, would you like something to drink? Portia walked up and asked. I seem to have eaten too much for breakfast. Pour me a cup of black tea. Okay, please wait a moment. A while later, Portia came over with the black tea. Thank you, Ms. Portia. Is that Mr. Chen's yacht? It's so beautiful. The boss still thinks that it's small. He has another yacht that's being ordered. It costs more than $300 million. Felwood Cisco gasped. That was way too rich. $300 million. It could probably be ranked among the top 10 yachts in the world, right? Although Felwood Cisco was considered a rich man, however, most of his assets were in his company. His engineering company was valued by the bank at around $200 million US. He had 60% of the shares, so his personal assets were more than $100 million. However, his liquid funds were less than $5 million. He didn't even have $1 million in cash. He naturally couldn't spend as much as Chen Zhao, not to mention the Hydra and the unfinished super yacht. The cars in the garage alone were probably worth more than $20 million. Felwood also knew that the house's AI butler system would cost tens of millions of dollars. Chapter 1880. After Chen Zhao finished his morning exercise, he apologized to Felwood. After all, he'd left the guest at home and went to exercise. He washed off the seawater on his body so that it wouldn't turn into salt crystals. Mr. Chen, do you exercise so much every morning? I'm used to it, Portia thought to herself. This was already a small amount today. Usually, Chen Zhao's morning training was 10 times more than this. If he had nothing to do in the morning, he'd basically train his body. Mr. Chen, are you used to this house? Are there any flaws in the design? Felwood acted up again and asked how comfortable Chen Zhao's house was. Even the most perfect house had flaws. Even Mingyue Villa was no exception. When decorating the villa, try to reduce the sharp angles, Chen Zhao said. After all, there were children at home and they were active. Bumps and bumps were unavoidable. If there were sharp angles in the house, it would be a great threat to the children. Moreover, even Chen Zhao couldn't be absolutely sure about the unintentional injuries. I understand. I will supervise the renovation of the villa by Mirror Lake. Felwood nodded. Then, should Mingyue Villa be renovated? This is a flaw in our company. We have to take responsibility. We'll talk about it after Mirror Lake is finished, Chen Zhao said. Are there any other requirements? It's best to add a larger elevator to the front yard to the beach. There are so many children and the small elevator isn't enough. This was a problem he hadn't considered before. Back then, there were only 4 people, pets, and underlings, so a 500-kilogram elevator was enough. But then they adopted 8 children. The small elevator wasn't enough at all when the children went up and down. Just then, Stephen and Fantas walked in. Hi, Chen. When Felwood saw Stephen, he was stunned for a moment. Then he froze. You're Mr. Stephen? Stephen, let me introduce you. This is Felwood Cisco. He's in charge of designing and building the villa at Mirror Lake. Hello, Mr. Felwood. Hello, Mr. Stephen. Felwood didn't expect Chen Zhao to introduce him to Stephen at all. Who was Stephen? He was the #1 director in the world. His identity, his fame, and his influence made it impossible for anyone to ignore him. In particular, The movie Kidnapped, which was released at the beginning of this month, caused an uproar in Hollywood. It kept breaking all the movie records. At the same time, it also increased Steven's influence. Recently, he even had a new title. Steven was known as the man who could shake Hollywood single-handedly. Steven may not be the most powerful man in Hollywood. However, those who were more influential than him were all CEOs of the Big Six. They were backed by the Big Six. That was why he had more influence than Steven. Apart from their identities, they were just rich people. But Steven was different. He relied purely on himself. Mr. Fellwood, did Chin tell you about me? I've roughly explained it, but the specific design and construction of this project can only be carried out after my team of designers and I have seen the site. Of course, I understand. It was because Steven liked the design of Mirror Lake Villa. Therefore, he hoped that Fellwood Cisco, as the construction party, could also help him design and build a manor. Fellwood also attached great importance to this project. After all, the employer this time was Steven. If his manor was built, then as long as Steven promoted it a little, then his company would be completely famous. He could design and build a new home for the world's best director. Just this alone would bring a lot of benefits to his company. The construction industry loved to design and build houses for famous people, especially Hollywood stars. Their homes would often be noticed by the media. Even the construction party would receive attention. Mr. Fellwood, are you free today? How about you come with me to my land to take a look? Of course. Fellwood Cisco gladly accepted the offer. Jen, come with me, Steven said. Why me? I don't know architecture. Can you give me some suggestions? There's so many kids at home. Portia can't handle it alone. In fact, Chen Zhao often let Portia take care of the kids alone. However, Chen Zhao was too lazy to go out, especially to Steven's mountain. There was nothing there. He really didn't want to go. Then bring them all, Steven said matter-of-factly. Then he turned his head. Little Jerlin, do you want to see the lake on the mountain? Yes, I want to go. Jerlin immediately responded to Steven's call. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Fine. There were more adults today, so they didn't need to drive an RV or MPV. Steven also brought Famtus. Each of them drove a car. 1 or 2 kids were enough in each car. The few cars headed toward Steven's land. At the foot of the mountain, everyone alighted. The kids were full of firepower. Chen Zhao carried little Larissa, while the other kids ran up the rugged mountain road. The mountain wasn't actually very tall. It just hadn't been built yet. The road wasn't that bad. The journey up the mountain took about 10 minutes. After the road was built, it would probably only take 2 or 3 minutes to go up and down the mountain. When they reached the top of the mountain, Fellwood Cisco said, Mr. Steven, if you want to build the villa on the mountain, the road on the mountain can't be built in a straight line. It can either be a spiral route around the mountain or an S-shaped route. Which one do you prefer? It'll be a lot longer around the mountain, right? But it's safer to build a mountain road around the mountain. The S-shaped path will have a few big turns, so the speed will be limited. It'll also be dangerous when you turn. Can we build a straight path? We can't build a straight, steep road. The mountain is at least 1,000 meters high. The slope will be almost 40 degrees. Cars can't run up it, so a spiral road is the best. Indeed, Fellwood Cisco nodded. Actually, even if we build a long spiral road around the mountain, it'll only take us 5 minutes at most. Also, we can enjoy the scenery on the back of the mountain through the spiral road. Mr. Steven's forest is quite beautiful. It stretches for hundreds of kilometers. We can even build a small courtyard on the back of the mountain. You can also stop the car and rest in the courtyard when you're free. Chapter 1881. Where does the water come from? Fellwood asked. Underground river, Steven said. The underground river turned the mountaintop lake into living water. The rich nutrients in the river also flowed into the lake. It was precisely because of this that the lake was so full of vitality. Plus, the wind from the mountaintop made the entire lake sparkling. Portia was secretly amazed by the beautiful scenery. These rich people always took the best places. Felwood Cisco was also amazed. The scenery here was too beautiful. It wasn't inferior to Mirror Lake. However, due to the geology, LA had many lakes. Felwood wondered if he should look for a place with such beautiful scenery. Being able to live in such a place would definitely make one's body and mind happy. What's the lake called? I haven't named it yet, Stephen said. At the same time, he looked at Chen Zhao. Chen, what do you think? Chen Zhao touched his forehead. I'll name it myself. I don't want to name it for you. If you're not satisfied in the future, you'll blame me. Stephen thought for a moment and said, how about Blessed Lake? I think this is land blessed by God. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. These foreigners indeed had similar tastes. Chen, don't you think my place is prettier than your Mirror Lake? Huh. In terms of scenery, Mirror Lake isn't worse than yours. In terms of value, my Mirror Lake isn't as high above sea level. Me, Phalai, and our kids can gallop as much as we want. We can also raise cows and sheep and grow our favorite fruits and vegetables. For example, grapes. Can you grow such good fruits here? I have a wider field of vision here, and I can easily go hunting in the mountains. Darling, do you want to go hunting? You can come here to hunt in the future. My place is connected to the forest too, Chen Zhao said in disdain. We can also hunt in the mountains. We won't come here to hunt. How close is your place to the city? What wild animals? My place is different. It's very ecological. I can drive a yacht in my place. Can you move it to the lake on the mountain? It's the same no matter where. Stephen was also anxious. To Stephen and Chen Zhao, he was just like a kid who liked to run his mouth. In any case, whatever my family has, your family can't compare. The others looked at the two of them, speechlessly. Felwood Cisco, on the other hand, stayed away from their argument. He was the most awkward one. He didn't want to offend anyone. After the argument, Felwood said, Mr. Stephen, the best place to build the manor is over there. What do you think? Why over there? That's because it's the west side of the Blessed Lake, and the wind from the coastline blows from there. Therefore, in terms of wind direction, it's best to build a house facing the wind. When you're free, you can relax in the courtyard and enjoy the wind from the coastline. On the other hand, the natural light in that direction is unobstructed, and you can get abundant natural light all day long. That does seem to make sense. Stephen nodded. My budget is $100 million US. Everyone was stunned. Even Chen Zhao was shocked. Stephen, are you crazy? This shouldn't cost that much, right? My request is to surpass Chen's Mirror Lake. Mr. Felwood, can you provide an outstanding design? Chen Zhao's face darkened. Felwood smiled bitterly. How could he answer? He couldn't say in front of Chen Zhao that he could definitely do it. I can only provide the best design I can. I can't give a definite answer. Stephen, do you have so much money that you don't know where to spend it? At the beginning of next month, we'll get our first share of the box office. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. How much can we get? Right now, we can only get the North American box office, Stephen said. We still need to calculate the overseas box office. After deducting various taxes, the first North American box office should be $3 billion US. We both have 30% investment, so it's around $400 million. Felwood Cisco and Portia were greatly provoked. Evil capitalists. Didn't that old asterisk show Rasva get more? We can't help it. Not only is he one of the producers, but PLM is also the distributor. At least 50% of the movie's profits will go into his pocket. Chen Zhao and Stephen each had 30% of the box office, but they couldn't really get 30%. The two of them were worth 30% of the profits, not 30% of the box office. How much can we get from the overseas box office? It should be higher than the North American box office, right? We can't get much from the overseas box office. It's not even as much as the North American box office. Why? Of course. The overseas box office is more complicated, especially PLM's distribution fees. According to the contract, the overseas box office takes up most of their revenue. We can get about $300 million US each. Although their movie was just for fun, they were still very formal when they signed the contract. They would get as much as they should. Everything was done according to the contract. We have to go and blackmail that old asterisk shoal Rasva. Otherwise, I won't be satisfied. I think so too. Stephen nodded. Fellwood, let's stop here for today, Chinzhao said. Bring some people to investigate the scene another day. Okay. Stephen, let's go to Rasva's house now. Let's go. He stole a lot of wine from you. Let's go drink all of his wine cellar today. After Fellwood left the mountain, he parted ways with Chun Zhao's group. He also wanted to join in the fun, but his relationship with Chun Zhao and Stephen wasn't at the level where they could have fun together. So he still left dutifully. Portia watched as Chun Zhao and Stephen led the way. After arriving at Beverly Hills, they walked into a huge manor. She felt deeply hurt again. Their friend was indeed a rich man, a super rich man. Seeing Chun Zhao and Stephen, Paul left to welcome them. Paul, is Rasva home? Mr. Rasva is at the office. I'll call him now, Paul said. Tell him that if he doesn't come back in half an hour, Chin and I will drink all the wine in his wine cellar. Paul was helpless, but he couldn't stop Chin Zhao and Stephen. He could only pick up the phone and call Rasva. Chapter 1882. Portia looked at the beach that was even longer than Bright Moon Beach. Portia cursed the evil capitalists in her heart again. Every inch of land in Beverly Hills was worth its weight in gold. The location of the beach was even higher. The price of such a long coast was probably more expensive than the construction of the entire Mingyue Villa. This wasn't a remote area like Bright Moon Beach. There were no facilities nearby. The entire Bright Moon Beach was only $20 million. Of course, the real reason why Bright Moon Beach was so cheap was because of the sharks. Before Chun Zhao moved in, there were hundreds of sharks near Bright Moon Beach. Beverly Hills, on the other hand, was a combination of tourism, shopping, leisure, and high-end residential area. In addition, many celebrities and rich people moved in. The Oscars, Grammys, Golden Globes, and other events also increased the value of Beverly Hills. A 200-square-meter house here would cost $3 million. That was around $150,000 per square meter. In other areas, a house would only cost $100,000 to $200,000. As for Portia, she roughly estimated the value of this super mansion in front of her. Without a few $100 million, it would be impossible to buy it. Portia was shocked once again. Then Rasva returned. He saw Chun Zhao and Stephen moving the wine out. Paul tried to stop them, but Rasva was furious when he walked in. You two are too much. Rasva roared in exasperation. I'm still in a meeting. Isn't that perfect? We gave you a reason to slack off. Chin Zhao said matter-of-factly. Put my wine down, or I'll have Paul call the police. Fuck you. You stole all this from Chin. Don't think I don't know. You say it like you didn't do it, Rasva said, unconcerned. Paul, go prepare some food for us, Chin Zhao said. Paul left this troublesome place as if he was escaping. The three of them couldn't afford to offend him. Chin, you usually don't come when I call you. Why did you come today? I'm eating from the rich, Chin Zhao said. You earned so much. You have to pay something. That's right. Take this wine as payment. Stephen held 2 bottles of purple brew in his hands. You say it like you earned very little. Rasva rolled his eyes. All the accounts were from their company. Of course, Rasva knew how much money Stephen and Chun Zhao had. But we still earn less than you. Portia hated these three evil capitalists very much. Rasfa looked at Portia, who was standing at the side. "Who is this young lady?" "My personal assistant, Portia. Find a place to play." After Portia left, Rasfa came over immediately. "Chin, did you fuck her?" "Get lost, old pervert." The three of them sat on the beach, watching the children playing on the beach. Rasfa and Stephen already knew that Chen Zhao had adopted 8 children, but this was the first time they had seen it. "Chin, what were you thinking? Why did you adopt so many children?" "It was a spur-of-the-moment idea." "Do you regret it?" "I don't regret it. It's just that sometimes I feel tired, but I also feel a sense of accomplishment." "Let them come to my place to play when they're free," Rasfa said. "Your place is too remote." "What fun do you have here? Watching you play with female celebrities? Aren't you afraid that Chin will kill you?" Stephen rolled his eyes. "Come to my place after my manor is built." "You're moving?" Rasfa still didn't know that Stephen had bought that land. "Don't you know? Stephen bought a few mountains. There's a very beautiful lake at the top of one of them. He's planning to build a new home on the lake." "Really? Is that place nice?" Chin said it's very nice. Stephen could only see the scenery, but he believed Chen Zhao. Since Chen Zhao said that the blessed lake was very nice, it must be. After dinner, Chen Zhao and Stephen left with the children. "Phantus, it's night. Be careful when you escort Stephen." "Okay, Chin. Bye." "Bye." Portia helped to drive. The two of them took the children away in batches. When Chen Zhao and Portia returned to Mingyue Villa, Feilai also arrived home. "Chin, where did you take the children to play today?" "Stephen's new land," Chen Zhao said. "I introduced Felwood Cisco to Stephen. In the afternoon, we went to Rasfa's house in Beverly Hills." "Boss, what's Mr. Rasfa's business?" "He's the chairman of PLM." Portia's eyes widened. "He's the chairman of PLM, one of the big 6? He's also a major shareholder." Rasfa's business was very complicated. His total assets were probably in the tens of billions. Of course, he was most famous for his identity as the chairman of PLM. "Mr. Yang, won't you consider it? We can provide you and Mount Longhu with a generous sponsorship fee." Vestana looked at Yang Gua sincerely. "I'm sorry, I'm just the person in charge of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Overseas Affairs Office." "Miss Vestana, if you want to hire one of our brothers from Dragon Tiger Mountain as a consultant, you can contact our contact person. If you don't have a way to contact them, I can provide it." Vestana's expression darkened. In order to rope Yanggua in, she had made up her mind to hire him. If Yanggua could accept the invitation of the psionic ability team and become their special consultant, he would be able to become their special advisor. It meant that they could be connected to Dragon Tiger Mountain in China. Vestana didn't know about Dragon Tiger Mountain in the past, but after coming into contact with the spiritual world, she finally understood what Dragon Tiger Mountain represented. It was a super sect like Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world, and their leader seemed to be the strongest in the spiritual world. Vestana felt that he was powerful because he was from China. Dragon Tiger Mountain and their leader were definitely stronger than him. If she could get the support of Dragon Tiger Mountain and their leader, then the psionic team's power would increase greatly. For this, she was willing to pay a high price. But Yanggua didn't care at all. He just brushed her off. Every time Vestana saw Yanggua's businesslike attitude, she wanted to beat him up. But she also knew that she couldn't beat Yanggua. Even if she could, she didn't dare to. Dragon Tiger Mountain was a super sect that everyone couldn't ignore. Vestana dared to lead the psionic team to fight against the supernatural organization led by Chen Zhao because she knew what Chen Zhao and the organization were worried about. But Dragon Tiger Mountain was different. With one order, they could make the psionic team fall apart. Chapter 1883. Longhu Mountain's North American resident office was actually an office rented in an old neighborhood. There was a sign hanging on the door. Longhu acupuncture, massage and massage. Yanggua's office was a single room with a bathroom. The rent was less than $1,000 a month. The windows and doors were closed. When Yanggua smoked, the whole room was filled with smoke. Westana had been here a few times, but she still couldn't get used to the environment. Yanggua leaned lazily on the boss's chair. Miss Westana, I've told you many times that if you want to cooperate with Longhu Mountain, I'd like to express my gratitude and welcome. I can give you the phone number of the person in charge of Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office. But I don't have the authority to accept cooperation intentions on my own, so you should contact and consult Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office. Yanggua said lazily, or is my English bad? You don't understand what I mean. Westan sighed. She had tried to contact Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office directly. But what was the difference between the psionic team and Longhu Mountain? A remote African primary school went to Harvard University and said they wanted to cooperate and exchange. Was that even possible? Of course Harvard would ignore them. Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office's attitude was similar. They said they would pass on the message to the Divine Master and thank the psionic team for their friendship. It was a formal reply, but they threw Westana's contact information into the trash can. Only then did Vestana remember to contact Yanggua first. Yanggua was from Longhu Mountain after all. If she could get Yanggua, it would be easy to deepen the relationship with Longhu Mountain through him. Moreover, it was said that Yanggua was also a powerful spiritualist. Westana also found out through the intelligence network that Yanggua was a disciple of the Tao generation in Longhu Mountain. The Tao generation was quite high in seniority. It was said that the next divine master would be chosen from the Tao generation. So once the next divine master took over, Yanggua's status would also rise. This was also the reason why Vestana had been making promises time and time again, regardless of the cost. As long as Yanggua was willing to come to the psionic team as a special consultant, Westana was willing to offer many conditions. From personal benefits to resources, she would give Yanggua whatever he wanted. At that moment, Yanggua stood up. Westana saw Yanggua's reaction for the first time. She thought Yanggua had accepted her invitation and became excited. Westana, it's time. Time? I'm off work. Sorry, I should go. Vet Hannah was a little frantic. She felt that facing Yanggua was similar to facing Qin Zhao. It was both unbearable. However, the two of them were completely different extremes. Qin Zhao was so domineering that no one could touch him. If he did, he would get hurt first. Yanggua, on the other hand, was the kind of person who would laugh and let you disturb him for the entire afternoon. He was like a bouncy ball. No matter how they harassed him, he just listened with a smile. I'm glad you came. You're welcome to come again. Vestana could only leave gloomily. As she walked out of the dark and damp corridor, a woman in a cloak walked past her. The woman's cloak was in tatters, and her entire body and head were wrapped up tightly. Vestana glanced at the strange woman in astonishment. The woman walked to Yanggua's office and knocked on the door. Come in. Mr. Yang. Hi, Layla, you're here. How have you been? Yanggua greeted her. Not very good. The woman's expression was a little ugly. I need treatment. Okay, wait a moment. I'll make some medicine for you. Yanggua stood up and opened the cabinet. He took out some strange ingredients. After Yanggua made the ingredients, he threw them into the juicer to make juice. In the end, a cup of black liquid flowed out of the juicer. It's done. Take it. Yanggua handed the black liquid to Layli. Layli put the cup to her mouth and immediately felt a pungent smell. However, she resisted the nausea and forced herself to drink all the black liquid. Layli felt her stomach churn several times. This made her retch a few times. Then the medicine started to take effect. Layli's breathing gradually calmed down. Layli, you seem to be acting up more and more frequently. Yanggua looked at her seriously. Did you use that power in your body again? I'm in trouble. Someone wants to catch me. Someone wants to catch you? Yes, and they're very strong. Even though I used the power in my body, I still couldn't beat them. Who? I don't know. It sounds like Spanish from their language. People from Spain? Yangwa thought about it and said, You can't beat them even if you use the power in your body. Yes, they're very strong, Layli said bitterly. Also, they seem to know my ability and are targeting me. I can't fight them at all. Yangwa and Layli were old acquaintances. Thus, Yangwa wanted to help Layli solve her problem. Actually, the best way was to send Layli back to China as long as she was on Mount Longhu. As long as Layli was on Dragon Tiger Mountain, no one would be able to do anything to her. However, the key problem was not on Dragon Tiger Mountain. Dragon Tiger Mountain did not reject outsiders. For example, Zhang Tianyi and a few other foreign students. There were also a few foreign outer disciples in the mountain. As for Layli herself, the power in her body strongly rejected the East. If he really sent Layli to the East, she would probably go berserk on the plain. Yangwa scratched his head and said, I'll call Grandmaster and ask if he has any solutions. As Yangwa spoke, he picked up the phone and dialed Zhang Tianyi's number. Hello, Grandmaster. It's me, Little Yang. Gua, or do you know what time it is? Zhang Tianyi let out a deafening roar on the other end of the phone. The entire Dragon Tiger Mountain trembled under Zhang Tianyi's anger. When the Celestial Master was angry, dragons and tigers roared. Oh no, Yangwa cursed inwardly. He forgot that it was only 4 or 5 in the morning in China. Grandmaster, I'm in trouble. My friend and I are being hunted. It's the friend named Layli I mentioned to you last time. Being hunted? Who's after you? I don't know. They speak Spanish. Why don't you take them back to the mountain and hide? I don't need to call you if I can go back. You know Layli's situation. The angel blood in her is very against the land of China. Then there's nothing I can do. I can't let these old bones run over to the Americans. Grandmaster, please think of another way. How about I ask your wife to help you? No, please don't. Chapter 1884. Do you have to be like this? What's wrong with your Xiao Longnu? She has a good body. Looks, background, power, and bloodline. What are you not satisfied with? My ancestor. Can different species combine? Yangwa cried in pain. Of course. Why not? Don't you see all sorts of mixed bloods? Why are you fighting with them? The problem is she. Every time she gets excited, she transforms. You don't have to tell me about your relationship. Forget it. Let's not talk about her. My friend and I are like this. You have to think of something. How about asking my senior Dowie to help me? You're thinking too much. Your senior Dowie is a candidate for the leader. He's the young leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain now. What do you have to ask him to help you? You can't just watch my friend and I die in a foreign place, right? Do you remember that Chen guy I told you to find last time? Go hide in his house. Him? Can he? Yangguo was doubtful. Didn't you go to his house? Didn't you see the dragon head in front of his house? That dragon was really slain by him. Yangguo asked in surprise. Yangguo had thought that Chen Zhao had gotten a dragon head to show off. He didn't think that Chen Zhao had really killed the dragon head. If he really has the ability to kill a dragon, he should be able to protect my friend, Yangguo murmured. With your lousy skills, everyone is better than you. What's there to complain about? Zhang Tianyi's tone was filled with disdain. Ancestor, I'm a genius of Dragon Tiger Mountain, okay? There's no one in the younger generation who's more talented than me. Good my asterisk SS. If you can, go kill a dragon for me to see. It's not like I haven't seen a dragon before. Yangguo pursed his lips. In fact, his wife's nickname was Little Dragon Maiden, and her true form was that of a Western dragon. Yangguo had seen his father-in-law. Back then, he'd been beaten up by his father-in-law for marrying Xiao Longnu. Yangguo felt that he could withstand his father-in-law's beatings. If he worked hard for a few more years, he might be able to kill a dragon. The dragon head in his yard is different. What's different? Forget it. There's no point in telling you. You don't understand at all. That Chin fellow is many times stronger than you. If I work harder, I can also catch up to him. I hope you can. Zhang Tianyi didn't believe it. Zhang Tianyi and Qin Zhao had sparred before. Although both sides were holding back, there were still some exchanges. However, at that time it was only a spar and no one used their true abilities. But Zhang Tianyi knew that if they really fought, he probably wouldn't be able to beat Qin Zhao. Of course, Zhang Tianyi's ability didn't lie entirely in his cultivation, but in his spells. In particular, he had the ability to subdue demons and devils. Zhang Tianyi was confident he could even deal with a great demon like Tamamo no Mei. Even if he didn't kill Tamamo no Mei, he would at least be able to seal her. And Yang Guo's talent was indeed rare in this world. But Yang Guo could only reach the same level of cultivation as her. But Chen Zhao was different. He already had his own path. In the jargon of Taoism, he already had his own Tao. He hung up the call with Zhang Tianyi. Yang Guo turned to look at Rayleigh. Let's go. I'll take you somewhere. Suddenly, a huge impact came from behind without any warning. Yang Guo's back was facing the window, so the impact sent him flying out. However, in the instant that Yang Guo was sent flying, he threw out 3 talismans. Green light, white face, red spirit. Yang Guo quickly made a hand seal. The 3 talismans instantly turned into 3 strange beasts of different shapes. Green, white, and red. The 3 beasts were also demons, but they were different from Japanese Shikigami spells. The 3 beasts actually had nothing to do with Yang Guo. Moreover, the 3 beasts before him weren't in their original forms either. Their original forms were extremely powerful. They borrowed their power through talismans and spells. Green light was in the form of a flood dragon. White face was a white tiger, and red spirit was a red crane. Don't attack. Let's go. Yang Guo pulled Rayleigh and turned to run. The person who'd ambushed him was very strong. Yang Guo didn't want to fight them here, especially since Rayleigh was still here. If Rayleigh couldn't hold back and attacked again, it would be even more troublesome. Rayleigh was pulled away by Yang Guo. The 3 beast clones were left to deal with the person who'd ambushed them. It's that group, Rayleigh said. Is it them? Yes. The person who ambushed you just now isn't awakened. He seems to be able to detonate anything. More than one person. Yang Guo suddenly stopped. More than one. As soon as he said that, someone blocked their way. It was a woman with waist-length hair wearing tight clothes. The woman held 2 swords in her hands. The long sword in the woman's hand was constantly making fancy movements. Be careful. This woman is also very strong, Rayleigh warned. She knows a special type of cloning spell. As soon as Rayleigh finished speaking, half of the long-haired woman's body emerged from the shadow. That half of the body was the long-haired woman's appearance, but it was completely black and her facial features couldn't be seen clearly. At the same time, the person who'd been entangled by the 3 beast clones also came out, blocking Rayleigh and Yang Guo's path. You two, this humble one, is Longhu Mountain's Divine Master Sect's Tao Generation Yang Guo. I hope you two can give our Divine Master Sect some face. This humble one will be very grateful. Yang Guo actually knew that it was very unlikely to use Longhu Mountain's Divine Master Sect's name to scare off the 2 attackers. But it could occasionally work. Some people just fell for it. Although Yang Guo's tone was weak, he was still 120% vigilant. He turned around and looked at the 2 people in front and behind with a serious expression. The person chasing them suddenly charged at Yang Guo and Rayleigh. He was extremely fast. He ran on all 4s like a wild beast. However, his appearance did not change at all, not even a little bit. Beast-like technique. Yang Guo suddenly took out a bell and shook it. Rumble, that it should have been a clear sound. But Yang Guo shook it like a cannon. The surrounding walls collapsed. The person using the beast-like technique was directly hit by the sound of the bell, and was sent flying. You'd better not act recklessly. The bell in my hand is a treasure of Longhu Mountain's divine master sect. If I release it at full power, you too will die without a doubt. Suddenly, a black shadow crept up from under Yanggua's feet. In the next instant, the black shadow transformed into a human figure that tightly entangled Yanggua. The long-haired woman attacked.